The following is a presentation of Fox Sports.
It's the first walk down Frog Alley in 2016 as Gary Patterson starts his 17th season as head coach in Fort Worth. Former Texas High School Player of the Year, Kenny Hill, takes the reins from Trevon Boykin against South Dakota State. And the second leading D1 receiver in the nation over the last 2 years, Jake Winicki. We're not on the prairie, but we do have Horned Frogs and Jackrabbits now on Fox College Football. Tonight's presentation of Fox College Football is brought to you by Coyote. We come to you live tonight from Fort Worth, Texas, from Amon G. Carter Stadium. They've won every game here over the last 2 seasons, and they'll start 2016 at home tonight. TCU ranked 13th in the nation against the South Dakota State Jackrabbits. And with Ben Lieber, I'm Mark Caldwell. Great to have you with us tonight for Fox College Football as TCU, winners of 23 out of 26 games, Ben, over the last 2 years, takes the field tonight against the Jackrabbits. So that was with Trevon Boykin leading the way on offense for the last 2 years. Obviously, a big transition being made at that quarterback position now.
A big transition, but I think if there's a Trevon Boykin 2.0, it could be Kenny Hill. Transfer from Texas A&M, has all the same physical attributes. Big body, big strong arm, and he wants to stay in the pocket and make the right reads and be a true quarterback, but he's athletic enough to extend plays if he has to. So look for big plays out of Kenny Hill. On the other side of football, South Dakota State has an absolute stud at wide receiver, a 2-time All-American, and he's just a junior. 6'4", big body, smooth runner, deceptively fast. I look for South Dakota State to get the ball in his hands early and often.
South Dakota State is a very good FCS squad. They are ranked 8th in the nation in FCS heading into this game, and they've been to the FCS playoffs for 4 straight years. TCU, this is the first time they'll be in action since the historic bowl comeback against Oregon in the Alamo Bowl. It's TCU at South Dakota State. We'll kick it off right after this. It's a long trip from Brookings, South Dakota down to Fort Worth, Texas, but it hasn't taken any pep out of the step for the South Dakota State Jackrabbits. They take the field at Amon Carter Stadium, the home of the TCU Horned Frogs. 11-2 was their record last year, 7-2 in the Big 12. Winners of the Alamo Bowl, Gary Patterson with 143 wins in 16 seasons. Now his 17th year as the head coach of the Frogs. Coach Stig, they call him John Stiglmeyer, 20 years at South Dakota State. 5 FCS playoff appearances. They were Division II until 2004, and Coach Stig went to school at South Dakota State and has been there since 1988, first as an assistant for 9 years and 20 years now again as the head coach. This is a freshman from San Jose, California, Cole Bunce, doing the honors to kick the ball off for TCU. A line drive, fielded on a bounce. No, it's going to bounce past and into the end zone. And Jordan Brown is going to run it out. And that is not, Ben Lieber, how you want to start a season. He goes down in a heap at the 5-yard line.
Well, I know that he's excited to come down here. There's a lot of kids that have never traveled before, but that's a situation, unless that ball touched him, that ball rolls the end zone and you don't touch it, just go ahead and take a knee. But obviously a lot of excitement for this Jackrabbit team. They want to get out there. They want to make some plays against this powerhouse in the Big 12.
Taryn Christian, Sioux Falls, South Dakota. He's a sophomore. Last year he played in 8 games. He started 4. Nearly 1,300 yards, 7 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Takes the handoff and throws a quick slant, and it's caught to the All-American wide receiver Jake Winicki from Maple Grove, Minnesota. The second most yards in all of FBS and FCS over the last 2 years for Winicki, 2,876 receiving yard, and there have been 12.
Well, we talked to Eric Idness, and the offensive coordinator, and he told us, hey, we want to come out and we want to run the football take some time off the clock, but first play, get in the hands of your playmaker.
This time it's kept by the quarterback, Christian, and a little bit of room off the left side, but the room that appeared to be there was taken away quickly by Jeff Gladney running up at corner in support to stop the quarterback, Christian.
Well, there was a quarterback battle and a little bit of a competition in camp between Taron Christian and Zach Lujan, who played last year as well. And that's the reason right there. I think the dual threat ability of Christian to pull the ball down, give your offense a little bit more options, especially against a big TCU defense that's really athletic. So fight athleticism with athleticism.
Christian did run for 347 yards and 5 touchdowns last year. Now it's Brady Mingarella carrying the ball for the first time. Makes a man miss. Stumbling toward the sideline. Has a first down. And takes it all the way out near the 40-yard line for South Dakota State. And Brady Mingarelli, one of the impact players to watch in this game tonight, Ben.
Well, he really is. You know, they want to establish the run, and he's a good running back. You saw the sweet feet. He's not a big guy, but he has short, choppy strides, and he hits the hole really hard. For the defense, Randy Tejada missed all of last year, but was a stud the year before. He comes back. He's going to have a tough task going against Jake Wieneke most of this game.
Mingarelli ran for 18 yards on second down. He'll get the ball again on first down. And not a lot of room. Just able to grind out 2 yards up the gut for South Dakota State.
Well, you know what I like so far is South Dakota State is not backing off of going against this TCU front line. This TCU defensive front is awfully big and strong. Josh Carraway, number 94, James McFarland, number 40. Those guys on the edge are absolute beasts, and the guys inside are big and strong too.
After 2 straight runs by Mingarelli, Isaac Wallace from Omaha, Nebraska is in at running back, but it's a pass to Wieneke, and he eludes a tackle at midfield, and he races down the sideline, and this drive that started at the 5-yard line is now into TCU territory. Their 3rd first down, and Wieneke's in the 41 of the Frogs.
Well, that's what makes Wieneke so tough. Look at his size. He's a big player at 6'4", 215 pounds. And when you're a corner, some of these smaller corners have a hard time jamming up the line of scrimmage. And the way that they use him, they'll sometimes be on the tight end side, sometimes he'll be opposite the tight end. It's really hard to get a beat on where he's going to be at.
Three minutes into the game, and here's a pass by Christian, and it's incomplete on first down at the 41-yard line of the Frogs.
Well, that's about the only time so far in this drive that we've seen Josh Carraway, number 94, make any sort of impact. He's a speed guy off the outside. He needs some time in those drop back situations to use his athleticism and speed off the edge. That time he did just enough for Christian to have to make an errant throw.
Carraway's a senior from Marcus High School in Flower Mound in Denton County, just up the road. 9 sacks last year to lead TCU. South Dakota State, Christian keeping the ball on second down, in trouble as the option's off to the left side and has to slide down for a loss with Montrell Wilson closing him down and forcing that loss of 2.
And you get the sense right now that TCU's defense, you know, admittedly they're going to be a little bit more amped up. This is the first game. A crazy crowd here at home. I think they're starting to settle down now and understand the speed and the offense of South Dakota State.
South Dakota State offense averaged 412 yards a game last year, 28 points a game. Third down and 11, and Christian is throwing, and it's high, but it's caught inside the 30-yard line. The immediate hit, no, it's incomplete. It was juggled along the sideline, and it was not brought down by South Dakota State.
And you're not seeing a lot of complaining on Jake Wieneke. Normally when receivers feel like they catch the football and the officials say they don't, obviously body language will tell you that, hey, I caught the football, and they try to sell it. But you can tell right there, initially he caught it, but it looks like it was just enough to say it was an incomplete pass. He must have went out of bounds. I wonder if they're going to look if he slid out of bounds and his body made contact out of play before he actually secured that catch.
Nick Orr delivered the hit, the junior from DeSoto, Texas. Eddie Shelton, the referee, is talking with John Stiglmeyer. Don't know if he's going to be able to lobby him into reviewing a play. Doesn't appear like it. Brady Hale will punt. I think Coach Stig at least wants him to look at this.
But if he's out of bounds right there before he makes the complete catch, that's got to be an incomplete pass.
Dangerous return man back to receive this Brady Hale punt. That's Cavante Turpin. Calling for a fair catch. It goes over him, and it will go into the end zone. 3 first downs on the opening drive for the Jackrabbits, but it stalls out just shy of the TCU 40. And now the Horned Frog offense, and Kenny Hill will take the field right after this. About 4 minutes in, South Dakota State had to punt. It's a touchback off the punt, and Kenny Hill and the TCU offense will start for the first time in 2016 at the 20-yard line. John Stiglmeyer is still working the officials, the referee Eddie Shelton. I mean, I think certainly that pass on 3rd down to Winicky was incomplete. The replay showed that he did not have control of it when he went out of bounds, Ben.
Yeah, I don't know. He doesn't get a second look at it really per se, but I think it's pretty evident from our standpoint that he bobbled that football and only regained control when he slid out of bounds. So it's a clear call by the officials.
Well, after sitting out 2015 from his transfer from Texas A&M, here's Kenny Hill. He throws it over the middle. It's juggled, and a big hit delivered to Cavante Turpin. Christian Roseboom with the hit. Turpin with the catch, and high-tempo offense here, 7 yards, and look how quick they go. They throw it again to Turpin. Hill, 2 passes, 2 completions, both to Turpin, and he's out of bounds for a first down.
Well, this is how you want to start with your new quarterback. You want to find a rhythm early. You talk about that a lot with any quarterback, and certainly for a guy that hasn't played in a year. Get him out there, quick decisions. A lot of these are probably scripted plays, so he knows what's coming.
2 passes, 15 yards, now a running play for Kyle Hicks. He's still on his feet and has a first down over the 45-yard line before Jesse Bobbitt, who was second on the Jackrabbit defense last year in tackles. 5 wideouts, an empty backfield, and my goodness, are they playing at a high tempo right now as they throw it to the right side, and Hicks is out there, the running back who just picked up 10 yards, picks up 9 on the pass play.
Well, you mentioned earlier about how prolific this offense has become. We talk a lot about this defense and how dominating they can be, but this is showing you right now, this Doug Meacham offense. It is high tempo, quick. We're going to fill it with a bunch of athletes, and then you got a quarterback that's big, strong, and physical, make the right decisions. It's a hard offense to stop.
Nick Mears is the injured player down right now. Strong safety for South Dakota State as we look at the impact players for the TCU offense and South Dakota State defense, and both of them have already been involved here early on.
Well, you see how important they think Cavante Turpin is to this offense. The first 2 plays are going to him, get the ball in his hands. They're super excited about what he can do in space. And then we just saw Nick Mears right now going off to get, looks like a lower body injury looked at, but he's one of the captains of this defense. And with this young corners that they have on this South Dakota State defense, he'll be tasked with keeping everybody in line and keeping everybody calmed down.
Hill has already completed 3 passes. Looks like he wants to go long on his 4th, and he is going long, and it's about 5 yards overthrown for Cole Hunt, the 6'7" transfer tight end from Rice.
Well, again, I asked Doug Meacham about Cole Hunt because they don't normally feature tight ends running down the football field. They like to get backs out of the backfield, utilize their wide receivers. What a weapon to have this offense, to have a big tight end running down the seam.
Now 3rd and 1. Running the ball is Kyle Hicks. Big collision and more yards for Hicks after the collision for the junior from Arlington Martin High School. He picks up 6 and a first.
You know, with only 56 touches last year, didn't get a lot of experience, but came out of camp as being the #1 guy in a backfield and that's very, very crowded with a lot of talent. You can see why he won that battle.
They picked up 40 yards on this drive. They look for more as Emmanuel Porter was the intended receiver along the sideline, but it sails a little bit wide with Anthony Washington on coverage. 11-2 the record last year for TCU with losses to Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. They rallied from down 31-0 at half to win the Alamo Bowl against Oregon in triple overtime, 47-41. Historic comeback. Second down and 10. Now 2 straight incompletions for Kenny. Throwing to the other side of the field this time. This is caught at the 20-yard line. And inside the 20, Isaiah Graham, a freshman from Bastrop, Louisiana.
So that time they come out, they fool the defense, they bring in 12 personnel, which is 1 running back, 2 tight ends, thinking they're going to run the football, and they play action pass, suck up those linebackers, and hit Isaiah Graham on the outside.
22 yards to Graham. A play fake here, a throw to Emmanuel Porter, right to that number 1. Accurate throw, but South Dakota State's defense closes down quickly. Anthony Washington stops him after a gain of 3.
Well, how many times do we talk about that in the opening game? Open field tackling is paramount. Not a lot of teams in camp do a lot of live tackling. You need, especially against the athletes that TCU has, you need to do a great job in the open field of tackling and knocking these guys back, not falling forward.
Officially only 2 yards on what was then the 9th play of the drive. Now play number 10 is a run. It's a cut. It's open field. And it's waltzed into the end zone. Touchdown, Kyle Hicks for TCU.
Well, you're going to see this right here, but watch the action by Emmanuel Porter, the wide receiver on the outside. He's going to pop into your screen. Who says that these receivers, all they do is catch and score touchdowns? They can get in there in the run game and block, too.
Ryan Graff from Los Angeles kicking the extra point. A drive at 80 yards. Kyle Hicks, who found the end zone on the ground 3 times last year, takes it into the Amon G. Carter Stadium end zone for the first time this year to give TCU a 7-0 lead. Gary Patterson has done it with defense for many years here in Fort Worth. The offense, though, marched right down the field at a very accelerated tempo. 10 plays, 80 yards. They averaged a play every 16 seconds on the drive.
You sure it wasn't faster than that?
It felt faster than that, especially
really
early.
fast. Really fast. They wanted to get Kenny Hill obviously calmed down, and boy, they were rifling off those plays.
Jordan Brown, who ran it out of the end zone last time, will not try that this time. Downing it for a touchback. 25-yard line is where the Jackrabbits have the ball. For the first time tonight, we say hello to our sideline reporter, Leslie McCaslin. Leslie.
Well, hello, guys. This TCU defense last year lost 10 different starters at different times throughout the year. It forced Gary Patterson to play 15 freshmen. Now, the silver lining is that a lot of guys got experience, but their head coach is not convinced that will help. He told me before the game that they're still young. Today, he wants to see them play fast, smart, and physical, guys.
And the interesting thing about the freshmen is it's 15 true freshmen that played, 15 redshirt freshmen that played, and then another 25 sophomores played for TCU last year. Now here's Taryn Christian handing the ball off. Brady Mingarelli carries it and racing up to deliver a hit from safety. One of those underclassmen, sophomore Nico Small.
Boy, and he came flying up. It was a great interior block on the linebacker. And as he tried to cut up to the left side, Nico Small from a safety position just comes screaming down in the alley to make a nice hit.
Mingarelli carrying for the 3rd time. He's a junior from Prescott, Arizona. Gained 4 yards. Kept by the quarterback, Christian. And no lane to run. It was snubbed out by Chris Bradley.
You know, they don't rotate very often in this 4-2-5 nickel style defense, but when they do, backups like Chris Bradley at 6'2", 275, athletic interior guys that can slip blocks, penetrate, get upfield, and make plays like that.
He's slotted in behind Aaron Curry on the TCU 2 deep at defensive tackle. Their other tackles, Joseph Broadnax and L.J. Collier. 3rd and 6 for the Jackrabbits. Throwing it is Christensen. Air under it, and it drops right down into the waiting hands of Jake Winicky for a first down at the Horned Frog 48.
Well, they brought a 5-man blitz, which kind of stretches your safeties out, and Denzel Johnson has the task of going against the big two-time All-American, and that ball just kind of floated. It didn't look pretty, but it got there. It got to the spot it needed to get to for Winicky to run under it. That was a nice throw and catch, especially under pressure.
Winicky has been the real deal early on. 3 catches, 53 yards. That one went for 23. Christian, play action. Has time, now flushed. Going to run. Steps out of bounds. Short gain.
Christian keeps that one.
Traven Howard forced him out of bounds. Traven Howard, very interesting story. Freshman, didn't record a tackle, but all of those injuries forced him into action last year, and as a sophomore, led the defense in tackles for TCU. He was also the defensive MVP of the Alamo Bowl win.
Well, a lot of these colleges are now in this nickel-style defense, are taking these safeties, these hybrid-type players, and he's one of these guys that are fast and rangy. And you talk about injuries, he missed most of preseason camp with an appendix surgery, so he just can't catch a break right now.
The scramble was for 3 yards. Marquise Lewis was in motion, a little misdirection handoff. There's a flag down. The ball carrier, Isaac Wallace, was undercut by Nick Orr right at the line of scrimmage. We've got a little bit to sort out here, though, with a penalty.
Holding, number 51 of the offense. 10-yard penalty. Replay second down.
Left guard, Tiano Pupangatoa from River Falls, Wisconsin. They go back to the 45.
Well, you can see him right there. Pupangatoa with the holding call. You get the penetration by the blitzing linebacker, and he has no choice to wrap his right arm around it to try to stop him. Just held on too long. That's the holding call on the left guard.
Second and long, 17 yards needed. The pocket collapses, and down goes Taryn Christian as Aaron Curry, who had 3 sacks last year, just engulfed him for a loss of another 10 yards.
Well, no doubt, 2nd and 17 for this defense. You know, that is a hard play to call for South Dakota State. They're going to pin their ears back. They're going to get after you. They're going to hit their creases. You don't know if they're going to blitz or not, and they don't have to most of the times, especially when you have guys like Aaron Curry, again, penetrating with the quickness, with that first step. And now they're even a bigger hole at 3rd and 27.
That 23-yard completion to Winicky that moved them into TCU territory a moment ago is a distant memory. Quarterback draw for Christian. Swerving up to the 43-44 yard line. Picked up a little bit, but obviously they needed a whole lot. And it will be a punting situation for the 2nd time of the 1st quarter.
Well, that's all you can do. I mean, you're an offensive coordinator. You got a 3rd and 27. There's not a play in the playbook that you say, oh, yeah, here's our 3rd and 27 play. We're going to run right to the sticks at 27 yards. This is not possible. Most of the time, it's a screen or draw in those situations. TCU brought 4. They dropped their 2nd-level defenders about 10 yards, 12 yards deep in a kind of a prevent defense. Nowhere to run, even for an athletic quarterback like Christian.
From Yankton, South Dakota, Brady Hill averaged 37 yards a punt last year. Brady Hale with this punt hits, rolls, favorable bounce for South Dakota State, and the Jackrabbits will kill it at the 11-yard line. We've already seen Kenny Hill engineer a touchdown drive in his first action for TCU. He'll bring the Horned Frog offense back out on the field right after this on Fox College Football. In Fort Worth, Texas, TCU has a 7-0 lead over South Dakota State. Now it's time for a Fox College Football game break with Mike Hill.
All right, guys.
Mike, we're going to see a lot of Patrick Mahomes throwing touchdowns this year for Texas Tech.
Boy, he's got a cannon. Have you ever seen a cannon of an arm? That kid has it. He is fun to watch.
Baylor and Texas Tech were the only teams in the entire country last year who outgained TCU's offense when it came to yardage. This is Taj Williams, who's a new addition to the TCU offense, a junior college transfer at wide receiver. And he grabs the pass on the right side and moves it out for a 5-yard gain.
Well, what a nice play by Christian Rosenboom, number 2. He had to go off the field because his helmet came off. Got to sit out for one play, but great job hat and hands and getting in on the ball carrier.
Running play here for Kyle Hicks. Off the right side and swallowed up by big Kellen Sulek from Yankton, South Dakota. And you can hear the pads pop as the 320-pound defensive tackle barreled into him.
Hey, they might be FCS level, but these guys are big, physical. They can hit. They are not intimidated by a Big 12 powerhouse like TCU.
Dropping to throw on third down. Hill. Incomplete. Deontay Gray is back into the mix this year after missing all of last season with an injury. He was the intended receiver.
Well, they kind of slowed down their offense a little bit for TCU, and thus the efficiency and production of their offense kind of slows down. Nice little play by Rosenboom to kind of start off first down. He gets Sulek on a big hit. Errant pass on third down. That's a great 3-and-out for this defense.
That defense last year was 8th in FCS, South Dakota State, in points allowed per game. 17 points. Adam Nunez with the punt. Marquise Lewis with the return. Straight up the middle on the return for 5 yards and into TCU territory. Excellent field position for the Jackrabbits on this next drive coming up. It's the opener for TCU and South Dakota State. Horned Frogs lead at 7-0 late in the first quarter. The opening. The best field position so far today for South Dakota State. They're at the 46 of TCU. A low throw, but it is caught. And out of bounds right at the sticks. Dallas Goddard, the tight end. It is a first down to the Horned Frog 36-yard line, picking up 10 yards. Goddard caught 26 passes as the tight end last year. Now Christian on a play fake, and it's another catch by Goddard. He eludes a tackle. He's run down from behind inside the 10-yard line. This will be first and goal.
The tempo worked in the first series for TCU. Keeping TCU on their heels a little bit. Play action passing. You'll see here, the guard pulls. They play action pass right at the front side linebackers, and that freezes everybody and allows Goddard to get up the seam for a big game.
He absorbed a hit from Nico Small as he caught the pass. Now McFarland came in. McFarland is back on the field for TCU this season after missing all of last year with an injury.
Yeah, McFarland, he was the 2015 Peach Bowl defensive MVP, then has to sit out the 2015 regular season with that toe injury. They're very excited to have a playmaker like that get back on the field and really set this edge for this TCU defense.
7 sacks in the 2014 season for McFarland. Second and goal from the 8. Jackrabbits. Quarterback keeper Christian. Maybe back to the line of scrimmage. Joseph Broadnax. McFarland, both of those D linemen were in on the stop for the Horned Frogs.
Well, and it's McFarland's going to come swooping all the way over. He's kind of a roving linebacker, stand-up defensive end, just kind of keying. Christian right there does a good job of being patient, doesn't allow Christian to cut back across his face. It's a good utilization of an athletic defensive end to kind of stand up and move around with the quarterback.
2 passes got him down here to the 8, but the running game has stalled out, and now the Jackrabbits face the proverbial 4-point play. Rolling, Christian, 3rd and goal from the 8-yard line. Under pressure throwing, and it hits his receiver in the back. It hit Marquise Lewis in the numbers, but the numbers in the back, not in the front, unfortunately, for the Jackrabbits.
But what a hard situation for these wide receivers. You see your quarterback starting to scramble, and you think, all right, I need to block somebody. So that's what Marquise Lewis is doing right there. He's just blocking for his quarterback. He doesn't even turn around, not expecting the ball to come to him. Christian had to make a decision. That was just the wrong decision to throw to the back of a receiver.
Took a shot from Josh Caraway. Now here's a 25-yard field goal attempt. Chase Vinatieri. And that is a familiar name, of course, as the nephew of Adam Vinatieri. And he puts South Dakota State on the scoreboard with 1:10 left in the first quarter. Chase Vinatieri with the short field goal.
Well, you never want to think of that situation for South Dakota State with their best field position. They march down to the red zone, and they only come away with 3. but going against this defense, they've looked awfully good. So that's a win for them. They got to be happy about that.
6-play, 38-yard drive for the 3 points for South Dakota State, the largest university in South Dakota, and East Central South Dakota, and Brookings, about 200 miles away from Minneapolis. Enrollment of almost 13,000. They were a Division II school until moving into FCS in 2004. They've reached the FCS playoffs, that is, for 4 straight years, winning 1 round in 3 straight years before going out in round 1 last year against Montana. Last year they had an 8-4 record, and they opened the year, by the way, beating an FBS opponent for the first time ever. They took down the Kansas Jayhawks 41-38. You call that game, Ben.
And held on.
Yeah, 31-7. They had the lead for the second quarter.
They jumped out to a huge lead, and KU came back, and they did just enough at the end to hold on.
Short little pop-up kick. Fielded by Deontay Gray near the 25. Hit at the 30. Nowhere to go after that. TCU with a 7-3 lead with just over a minute left in the first quarter. Here's Leslie McCaslin. Leslie.
Well, guys, even though quarterback Kenny Hill hasn't played a game since October of 2014, his offensive coordinator, Doug Meacham, did not expect him to be rusty. He told me before the game that Kenny's just not the kind of guy to get overwhelmed or anxious about anything. Good trait to have, and so far I can tell you, very comfortable. Seems like he's having a lot of fun being back out there.
And he says he has that sort of cornerback mentality where if it's one bad play, it's fine. He moves on. A good play, that's fine. He just moves on. Very headstrong cornerback mentality.
End around run here for the speedy Cavante Turpin. He's got room to run. He's got the ball into South Dakota State territory. He's down near the 35. Anthony Washington forced him out. Look at this long run here on the end around for Turpin. Some razzle-dazzle.
Well, he's the guy we talked about off the top that they're excited about him just to get him an open space. If it requires a ghost motion, a fake handoff, and a flip to the back, you got to find any way you can do it.
Well, he did run the ball 20 times last year. Now Hill on a rollout. He throws to Turpin, who just ran the ball down to the 37-yard line, and he jukes and jives and gets down inside the 30. It'll leave them with second down and short.
He runs for about 40 yards. You throw the ball back to him next time, and he shows off those sweet feet. A well-conditioned athlete, Cavante Turpin.
It's a short 3 that they need. Snap back to Hill. Bullet right over the middle. And Des White. Incomplete for Des White. Nick Farina at safety. Junior from Phoenix on the coverage. Big run by Turpin got them down here into scoring territory at the 30. A third down pass play, and Hill throws it, and it's caught. Nice grab by Jalen Austin. From South Grand Prairie High School, caught 10 passes last year, and opens his account for 2016.
Well, the quarterback can't always be accurate and put it right on the spot. The receivers have to bail you out sometimes.
And they're going to get a snap off here before the end of the first quarter, and it's a throw way downfield and hanging on to the ball. Great catch by transfer receiver John Diaz from LSU.
Well, the safety Nick Farina did everything he could. A late adjustment coming across, hit that seam, tried to knock the ball out. Outstanding play running up the seam right there.
And we see Diaz with his first catch for TCU, and that is at the end of the first quarter. The first quarter for Kenny Hill in a TCU Horned Frog uniform, and he goes 9 out of 13. He throws 87 passing yards in the first quarter, and TCU is on the doorstep to extend the lead when the second quarter starts after this. It's 7-3. The Horned Frogs lead on Fox College Football. After one quarter, TCU leads South Dakota State 7-3. TCU running for 62 yards. Passing yardage favors South Dakota State 91-87. Jake Winicky has 53 of the 91 yards that South Dakota State has compiled through the air. And in his first game as a TCU quarterback, 87 passing yards for Kenny Hill. That includes 26 on the last play to new wide receiver John Diaz, and it has TCU set up with first and goal at the 4. Motion for Cavante Turpin. They pitch it to him. He runs out to the left, but not enough blocking to get him down into the end zone. Stopped a yard short.
You know, overall, I'm actually really impressed with South Dakota State's defense. They've been strong, physical at the point of attack. They've shown at times that they're not being out quickness and not being behind on a lot of these like speed plays. These second level players are flowing fast and they're physical.
Officially the 2-yard line, 2nd and goal. And quickly throwing into the fade, and it's a flag down here on an intended pass for Emmanuel Porter. Jordan Brown on the coverage.
I think you're getting an obvious hold here by Jordan Brown. Ball's in the air. Receiver trying to make an adjustment to go get the football. And he pulls on the jersey. No attempt to turn around. You're going to get a holding call right here on Jordan Brown.
Pass interference. Defense number 9. Half the distance to the goal. Automatic first down.
Well, it's lofted up perfectly, and you can see Emmanuel Porter trying to adjust to the football, and that little grab right there. Whenever you see that jersey pull away, you see that separation. That's when they throw that flag.
First penalty tonight for South Dakota State. So on 1st and goal, Kyle Hicks, and into the backfield to stop him before he can get into the end zone. That was nicely done by Dallas Brown at linebacker for the Jackrabbits.
You know, like I was saying, these guys are bowing up front. The front 4 is physical. They're not getting pushed back. The second level guys are making quick decisions, shooting gaps. They're not phased right now by this TCU offense or defensively.
Another 2nd and goal for the 1 here early in the 2nd quarter. A play fake and a quick pass. Oh, and Emmanuel Porter wide open. Another marker down. South Dakota State's defense is clapping and acting as if this might be going against TCU.
This might be a push-off now on Emmanuel Porter. Jordan Brown again on the coverage. He's hand clapping, thinking this might be on
Pass
offense.
interference. Number 1 of the offense. 15-yard penalty. Replay 2nd down.
And that's exactly what it was.
If it were wrestling and best 2 out of 3 falls, it's 1-1 right now between Emmanuel Porter and Jordan Brown.
You got a nice little battle going on out there.
Speaking of wrestling, you know, South Dakota State is in the Big 12 in wrestling. That is, they do have a connection to the conference in wrestling. There was the offensive pass interference, and it will move TCU all the way back to the 16. And right as Kenny Hill snapped it, we have another flag down and another penalty apparently going against TCU.
Start. Number 70 for the offense. 5-yard penalty. Remains 2nd down.
Cordell Igwagwu in at left guard right now. Gary Patterson looks on, and he's seen his team retreat from the 1 to the 21. 2nd and goal, throwing Kenny Hill near the goal line and picked off by South Dakota State. An interception at the goal line by Jacob Brown of the Jackrabbits. I'm sorry, that's Christian Roseboom. And we'll get it in a moment. It's Micaiah Slade who had the interception at the 1-yard line, and that's where South Dakota State will take over.
Well, it's Roseboom that you mentioned in coverage underneath. He does a good job of turning, flipping his hips, going back to the deep middle of the field. That allows the defender to then jump in front of that ball. The ball had to be aired out a little bit more. You can see Kenny Hill, he knows it. He knows he missed it, but he had to put loft on that ball because of the way Rosenboom had turned and got between he and the quarterback.
And now Taryn Christian in trouble, just trying to give them a little bit more breathing room. He was hit behind the line of scrimmage, but able to fight forward. There's Micaiah Slade, who had that interception. Gain of a yard. Up to the 2 for Taryn Christian and the Jackrabbits. Taking much more time TCU in the first quarter averaged a play every 16 seconds. South Dakota State averaged a play every 32 seconds. And deep into the play clock before they snap it, Wallace running to the outside. A defender lost their shoe as Wallace is upended around the 10.
Well, a nice little trickeration here by Idness. You're going to see they pulled actually the front side guard away from where the ball was going. Got all the linebackers to flow with that guard. They're keying that guy, and then they run right where that void is. And there's a wide open hole. Didn't have to touch or block anybody, just done by scheme.
And Eric Idness, you're speaking of, the offensive coordinator for South Dakota State. Now it's third down. A yard to go. Fake handoff, using his speed to get to the edge for the first down. He did pick it up. It's still a very good tackle out of the open field for Nico Small, but it's enough for South Dakota State to move the sticks. Second third down conversion in 5 tries so far tonight.
Yeah, Nico Small was happy that he made that play. He was pumped up, but at the same time, Darren Christian only needed 1 yard. I mean, it was great athleticism, show off your speed, get lateral, chase down the quarterback. But this is a nice little drive right here to get the ball deep against your own end zone and kind of scratch and claw your way out.
The Micaiah Slade interception started it at the 1 yard line. Christian converted the third down and 1 with a 3 yard line. And a gaping hole here for Isaac Wallace. Isaac Wallace with speed to midfield. Isaac Wallace is going to outrun the TCU defense to the end zone. Barely got in. Touchdown, 87 yards. Wow. Then they almost caught him, but Isaac Wallace reaches the end zone.
You're going to see the left guard right here fold over. Got the linebackers once again to flow over the top. They create a natural void. They know that they're keying those guards, and they run straight downhill right where the linebackers are supposed to go. And Isaac Wallace shows off his speed as he's looking at the Jumbotron as the defender's chasing after him.
He celebrated at the 2 yard line, and Jeff Gladney closed the gap right at the last second. Clipped his heels, but it wasn't enough to keep him out of the end zone after an 87-yard gallop. It's a 99-yard drive. South Dakota State surprising TCU with a 10-7 lead. That's sophomore Micaiah Slade from Lincoln, Nebraska. His interception at the 1 yard line kept TCU out of the end zone. And then it ignited South Dakota State to go on a 99-yard touchdown drive. 87 of the yards covered on the run by Isaac Wallace, scampering into the end zone. He also had an 8-yard run earlier on the drive. So well done. 95 of 99 yards on that drive for Wallace.
You know, and twice on that drive, they pulled the left guard, which vacated the linebackers on the second level, and they really attacked that void. They did it 2 times. The second time was that big run.
Another short pop-up kick by Sam Koob. This is the interception by Slade. Stepped in front of Ty Slanina. Now the TD run, Ben.
Well, again, they just pull that front side guard, get the linebackers to flow over. They know that this TCU linebacking core is very disciplined in their keys and their reads. They have to see the triangle between the offensive linemen in the back. They read the front side triangle, watched the guard go over the top. It kept them flowing over the top, and they hit it right down that crease.
Derek Green is a transfer from Michigan, a graduate transfer from Michigan. He's in the backfield now. TCU trailing to South Dakota State. Oh, and a good read, and this is a pick, and a touchdown-saving tackle made by Deontay Gray. Jordan Brown, gluing on the route bend, stepped right in front, and has the second interception of the second quarter for the Jackrabbits.
Well, check out this. They love these number 1, number 2 sort of scissor routes. Jordan Brown sees it, kind of a lazy throw out there. Kenny Hill's got to put more on that, completely telegraphed. He does a great job of just sitting with his heels, weight on the back, waiting for Kenny Hill to make that long throw. Jordan Brown, that's well coached. Understanding situation, understanding formation recognition, knowing that they like to take these number 2 receivers and cross them up and get them out to the flat. That was a heck of a job by Jordan Brown.
It puts South Dakota State at the 27-yard line of TCU. Brady Mangarelli at running back. Taryn Christian going to throw. Chased off his back foot and got it to Winicky for a catch. A first down as well. Winicky was bumped out of bounds by Ranthony Tejada, but the sticks will move to the TCU 15.
We'll take a look at Winicky right here. Understands his quarterback's under duress, gets away and plays away from the defender, and Taryn Christian doing a good job of rolling to his right. That's a tough throw. Rolling to your right, throwing to your right, and threw him open with accuracy.
Winicky's 4th grab. 65 receiving yards for the junior, the 2-time FCS All-American. Brady Mangarelli running on first down. Headed the line of scrimmage, able to back up for 2 or 3 yards before Traven Howard takes him to the turf.
Well, in that time, South Dakota State decided to actually go with power run game. They pull Austin Schlottman, number 51. He's their starting center. They kind of fold him around, bring a fullback in behind, kind of classic power football. And TCU was there to sniff it out for a nice little play. But again, they're utilizing this movement and athleticism of this offensive front line.
South Dakota State, 128 rushing yards. They'll add to that total with a quarterback draw by Christian, leading to the outside, headed for the end zone. Well, as this score goes up on scoreboards around the country, there will be some oohs and ahs, because now, well into the second quarter, from FCS and the Missouri Valley Football Conference, the South Dakota State Jackrabbits lead 13th ranked TCU by 9, and it'll be 10 if they hit the PAT. You're going to have a chance to pull off an upset when you're South Dakota State playing at TCU. You need to force turnovers. They forced 2 here in the second quarter. This second turnover was the interception by Jordan Brown. And then Taryn Christian at quarterback races out 12 yards to put South Dakota State in front 17-7. 2 TCU turnovers turned into 14 South Dakota State points. Taryn Christian ran it in. You just saw for a split second, number 9, Jordan Brown, whose interception set up the 3-play, 27-yard touchdown drive that took 89 seconds off the clock. South Dakota State, a 17-7 lead. Remember that last year when they defeated Kansas, the first time in 8 tries to ever knock off an FBS opponent, they jumped out to a 31-7 lead over the Jayhawks and held on for a 41-38 win. Now they've got the 17-7 lead on the road in Fort Worth early in the second.
Well, it shouldn't be a surprise that this South Dakota State football team is well coached. Those last 2 interceptions, those takeaways, that's just well coached football. A safety over the middle, deep in your own end zone, read the play, watched Kenny Hill's eyes, made a great jump on the football, makes an athletic interception. And that last series, Jordan Brown did a lot of the same thing. Well coached, didn't get impatient, understood the route combination, saw Kenny Hill make kind of a lazy throw to the outside, and he jumps it.
5th drive of the game now for TCU. It's a running play to start it. After the touchback, they open up for the 25-yard line, and Kellen Sulik with the tackle of Kyle Hicks. So the drives, Ben, have gone touchdown, punt, interception, interception for TCU.
And right now, they shouldn't be down emotionally and mentally, but you watch them right now, the offensive linemen are kind of lollygagging around. Not a lot of pump, not a lot of spirit right now, this offense.
Hicks ran for 3 on first down. Hicks won't even pick up 3 here on second down. Jesse Bobbitt preseason Missouri Valley Football Conference all-conference selection linebacker, makes the stop after a gain of a yard.
You know, he's played a lot of football. He has started at will linebacker as an outside linebacker the last 2 years. These moments are not too big for him. He's been in the playoffs a bunch of times in his experience here at South Dakota State. He's stepping up today in a big way.
TCU is 2 of 3 on third downs so far in the game. They need 6 here, and Hill has a good pocket and an open receiver to throw to, and it's caught by the JUCO transfer Taj Williams. Steps out of bounds, first down TCU.
Well, they really like Taj Williams. They want to get him involved. You lose Josh Doxson last year, drafted to the Washington Redskins. They're looking for that next big target. They're hoping that the 6'3" junior college transfer from Iowa Western can be that guy.
Has been noted, transferred from Iowa Western. He's from originally Tallahassee. Sweeping out to the right after a 16-yard pass play. Here's Kyle Hicks, and nowhere to go. The pursuit to the outside prevents him from turning the corner.
You know, what did we see what was effective for TCU early in this football game? Offensively, it was high tempo, quick. You and I were commenting like, man, it seems like it's every 5-6 seconds they're getting the ball off. They're slowing the tempo down right now, and that's an advantage for the South Dakota State defense.
Hicks goes out, Derek Green in now at running back, and Green trying to go downhill. Another 3rd and 6. TCU just converted one of those. They're looking at a second straight 3rd down and 6.
Well, once again, they're slowing everything down. We've got an injured player right now. That looks like it's Kellen Sulik getting up slowly, but you know, Doug Meacham, his bread and butter is tempo. And if you want to get your quarterback in a rhythm like he did in that first series, in that first quarter, they need to step it up a little bit. Get Kenny Hill to stop thinking about his interceptions. Right now, you don't want him to overthink what he's doing. Get him back in rhythm. Quick tempo plays. Go with that kind of run and gun look that they're famous for, and kind of get back to what you know as a TCU offense.
Of the 2 South Dakota State starting defensive tackles, we called the name of Kellen Sulik much more tonight. The one that has the accolades in terms of all-conference selections and a preseason all-conference selection this year is 54, not 94, but Cole Langer from Del Rapids, South Dakota, who has 10 tackles for loss last year to lead the team, and also 4.5 sacks last year to lead the team as well. But Sulik having to limp off, that's certainly, given his performance so far, been a loss for the Jackrabbit defensive front.
Well, hopefully as he kind of walks off under his own power, that's not a big-time injury, because he's been a key part in this interior run-stuffing defense right now for South Dakota State.
He has 4 tackles so far in the game. Here's a blitz look on 3rd down, and this is a long 6 that Kenny Hill and the Horned Frogs need. In the empty backfield, stepping up, going to make a decision to run the ball, and I don't know if he picked it up. Closing him down was defensive end Jared Bloom.
And I think he's going to be
2 full yards short.
Yeah, I think they're going to be short, yes, by 2 yards. He tried to extend. He knew where the flag was at. He knew where that little marker was. He tried to get out there, but just couldn't. Stepped out of bounds. It's a huge stop. Once again, it's a huge stop. It's a way to respond right there for South Dakota State.
After giving up a touchdown on the opening drive, 4 series where the South Dakota State defense makes a stop. Adam Nunez is getting ready to punt. Marker down as the play clock has run out.
Delay game. Offense. 5-yard penalty. We play 4th down.
And I think they just wanted to give their punter just a little bit more room. Put him back on the other side of the 50. Now he can really boom this thing.
Marquise Lewis is back deep to receive. Even if they pin them deep, we know that South Dakota State has the ability to go the length of the field. They did that tonight with a 99-yard touchdown drive. Fair catch at the 10. South Dakota State on the road. And these Jackrabbits are hopping around right now as they have a 17-7 lead against Gary Patterson's TCU Horned Frogs in Fort Worth, Texas. fans who made the trip down from Brookings, South Dakota, having a good time as the Jackrabbits lead TCU in Fort Worth 17-7. Here's Leslie McCaslin.
Well, you're exactly right, and this team is having a great time. So much energy right now over here on this sideline. In fact, after their first touchdown, the offensive coaches were telling them, guys, you just scored on a 99-yard drive. You can score every time, and that's exactly what they went right back out there and did. They are pumped. We'll see if they can get another one before halftime.
Well, certainly they're not going to be sweating starting at the 10-yard line, 90 yards away with a 99-yard drive early. And it starts with Grady Mengarelli, and he gets wrestled down after a short gain on a run to the 12.
You know how most coaches, when you ask them about things that happened in the last year, they say, oh, no, we don't worry about that. We always look forward to the next year, good, bad, or indifferent. But when we talked about South Dakota State's win at KU last year, John Stiegelmeier said, yes, absolutely, that momentum and that confidence has carried over. They played a lot of football games in between, but he said, make no mistake, we've been talking about that game, telling those guys in the locker room that you can play in this conference.
South Dakota State, 114 rushing yards in the second quarter, and Mengarelli will bump that total up another 5 or 6 yards for the patient run up the middle. 6 minutes left in the second quarter.
And that's the word right now. You can be patient if you're Eric Eidnes. You don't have to get the ball down the field now. You've got a 10-point lead on TCU at home, and TCU's home on the road. You can slow it down. You can slow down the tempo. You can take your time, assess the defense, and execute.
On third down, Taron Christian, the quarterback, kept it and able to pick his way through the traffic running between the tackles. The QB, Christian, over the 20 for a first down.
And their first and second down play calling right now has been great. Not picking up huge chunks of yardage, but you give your offense a 3rd and 3, a 3rd and manageable situation. You don't need those big home run hitters. You can use your dual threat quarterback, run some quarterback keepers, use Taron Christian and the way that he is athletic. He's not afraid to run in the middle of this defense. He can pick up first downs just like that.
And South Dakota State not in any hurry either to snap these plays. It's at 4 on the play clock as Christian will give it to Isaac Wallace, and he's already burst up the middle for an 87-yard touchdown run tonight. There was a burst, but the defenders come together to knock him down after a 7-yard game. Traven Howard the first to hit him.
You know what's great about that run is he got the handoff and he was patient. He waited to take that backside cut until it was open. The hole opened up, got the handoff, then he saw it and hit it with a burst. It was great vision. Good job of not getting too antsy and waiting for that thing to open up, hit that backside seam.
Last season, as a freshman, Isaac Wallace ran for 198 yards. He has 102 on the ground tonight, and he sweeps left and runs out of the tackle and reverses field back to his right. He's knocked down by Traven Howard again, and a lot of work for Isaac Wallace just to get back to the line of scrimmage.
Well, they try a little bit of misdirection again. They get Mitch Vovoda, the tight end, to go across the formation, try to, again, mess with the keys, the second level of this defense. TCU that time does a good job of sniffing it out. But once again, 3rd and 3, that's a manageable situation for this offense.
They just converted one earlier on the drive. They moved Goddard, the tight end, from the right side to the left side of the formation. And Christian will throw this down the sideline and over and out of bounds, looking for Jake Winicki.
And a little bit of man-to-man coverage there by Jeff Gladney. He's the redshirt freshman, seeing his first action at the collegiate level here tonight. A tough matchup. I think if Christian had to do that all over again, he recognizes man-to-man, maybe more of a back shoulder throw as opposed to kind of a fade route.
For the 3rd time in the game, Brady Hale is punting. 3:38 to go in the first half. Good punt. Drives back Devontae Turpin. Backpedaling to the 20. A lane. Another lane. He's in midfield. Devontae Turpin. What a fantastic return this is. And it's going to get TCU right back into the game as he races 80 yards for a touchdown. So often we talk special teams and the impact that they can have early in an early season in a week 1 game. Usually it's because of some sort of special teams disaster, but the TCU special teams rise to the occasion.
Well, and what happened when you see that punt, you're like, wow, that's a beautiful punt. But what happens sometimes when you far like that, you outkick your coverage. Those guys they don't have enough time to get off the block, get down the field. And 42, Ty Summers, the backup linebacker right there in your screen with the nice little pop. He's the one that kind of springs it. The hole was there, but the pursuit was coming. Ty Summers does a good job of redirecting, putting his hips to the ball carrier, looking for work, and gets the key block that really springs him in for the touchdown.
When you look at 2015 for Kevontae Turpin from Monroe, Louisiana, as a freshman, he was second amongst all freshmen in FBS in total kick and punt return yardage. 910 total return yards for Kevontae Turpin last year. They officially will note this as an 81-yard punt return to give him 139 all-purpose yards tonight. And Kevontae Turpin has totally turned the game around in terms of South Dakota State having a 10-point lead, having momentum, and really it seemed like having taken TCU and their energy and their crowd out of the game.
Well, exactly right. You look around now, the student sections waving towels, people are on their feet. You can feel the energy. The vibe is different. Kevontae Turpin has single-handedly taken over this offense and this team, putting it on his back and making big-time plays.
A strike of lightning changes momentum in the game. Jordan Brown with the kick return. And Brown is up near the 25-yard line. South Dakota State will take the field with their lead now having shrunk to 3. The return man, Brown, slow to get up. He's a starting corner on their defense, and one more look at Kevontae Turpin.
Well, this is no panic time right now for this Jackrabbit offense. Your lead has been cut down from 10 to 3. You still have the lead. 3:14 left in this first half. Don't get out of your rhythm. Stay the course. Keep the tempo that you had set.
Mingarelli out of the backfield. Took one tackle, wrestled out of bounds.
And you can just feel and hear the pads popping now for TCU. It is a team game. They're down, their energy's down. Did they ever think in this first half that they'd be losing to an FCS football team out of South Dakota? No. But it's a team game. They need their offense and special teams guys to pick them up. And Turpin has done that, and now TCU's defense is flying around.
Mingarelli, who caught that pass, had 23 receptions out of the backfield last year. A fumble here for Taron Christian, and it's picked up by TCU. There's a scramble for it, and it is Horned Frog football. Aaron Curry knocked it out. There was a chance for James McFarland to pick it up. Finally, though, it looks like it is recovered by Montrell Wilson for TCU just outside the 10-yard line.
What happens a lot on some of these read options, when you get penetration up front, you've got to ride that running back, pull it out, keep that ball secure, and then all of a sudden you turn around and you've got somebody in your face. That ball is not as secure as you want. They do a great job of getting their hand in there and knocking it out. Talk about energy and momentum. TCU's got it right now.
James McFarland was thinking touchdown when he tried to pick it up. Montrell Wilson finally fell on it again. It was Aaron Curry who caused the fumble. And on the first play after the recovery, cutting to the outside on the run, it's Kyle Hicks. Zy Mosley at corner with the tackle.
And big Avion Collins, number 69, the right tackle, came all the way across, pulling from that right tackle spot to really get the key block on that one.
Now at the 8-yard line with just over 2 minutes left in the half. Hicks running again. Hicks has a hole again. It closes down, and they grab him by the ankles. Nick Farina with a pretty important tackle. Otherwise, Hicks may be in the purple grass right now.
And Nick Farina's had a really nice game so far. He's quick, he's been decisive, making nice open field tackles.
Timeout.
Timeout, defense. First charge timeout of the half.
Trying to hold on a 3rd down and 1 at the 4-yard line. South Dakota State takes a timeout. A fumble by South Dakota State quarterback Taryn Christian is why TCU has the ball here with a 3rd and 1 at the South Dakota State 4-yard line.
Well, keep your eye out right now for 27 in the backfield. That's Derek Green, the Michigan transfer. Big, strong back. He can catch out of the backfield, too.
He's 235 pounds. They don't give it to him. They fake it to him, and it leaves a wide open lane to run it into the end zone for Kenny Hill. A 3-play, 13-yard drive. 4-yard run by Kenny Hill to close it out. The extra point by Ryan Graff. And this game has turned quickly from 17-7 South Dakota State in front to now TCU back on top.
Well, check this out right here. Off the initial alignment, that's what sets up this read option play. Everybody's going to cue in on Derek Green, the running back, and look at all that space. You get a defensive end that collapses down, everybody's thinking run, and just by alignment with Doug Meacham in this offense, it puts Kenny Hill at an advantage to pull that football and see nothing but green grass.
It was set up because of something that South Dakota State rarely did last year, Ben. They only lost 2 fumbles in 12 games in 2015. And their 11 turnovers committed last year tied for the 2nd fewest in FCS. Not only do they commit a turnover, but they commit it in a horrible place on the field to give the Frogs the very short distance to travel. And with the 13-yard drive, the game is now a 21-17 TCU lead as the South Dakota State element of surprise and the 10-point lead is evaporated quickly.
Well, every game comes down to big plays, and sometimes you beat yourself as a team. You give a big punt return to Turpin. The punter has a great kick, but not high enough. Outkicks his coverage. That sets that up. You come right back, and Taryn Christian fumbles the football. So a lot of these games featuring big plays, but sometimes self-inflicted wounds.
Brady Mingarelli, this is a good kick return. Think about returners being elusive. He was bouncing off tackles up near the 40-yard line. It's time now for tonight's game summary brought to you by Coyote. In his first game with TCU, Kenny Hill, 105 yards, 2 picks, one by Micaiah Slade, one by Jordan Brown. Hill also has a rushing touchdown. South Dakota State has an 87-yard touchdown run tonight from Isaac Wallace. But TCU has a huge play of their own. An 81-yard punt return for a touchdown as Kevontae Turpin has almost 140 all-purpose yards.
And the worst part about that stat is not the 2 interceptions by Kenny Hill. It's the 14 points converted by South Dakota State after.
Jake Winneke in space, a stiff arm. Caught the pass, has a first down. Forced out right after he stepped over the 50-yard line.
And he's going against TCU's best corner, Anthony Tejada. Only played in a couple games last year, was out with injury. And he's been tasked with holding down Jake Winneke several times. They're going to move Jake Winneke around a little bit, right side, left side. But that time Tejada saw that big stiff arm from a 6'4" frame of Winneke.
Back-to-back seasons is over 1,400 receiving yards for Jake Winneke. And the junior picked up 14 yards on that pass play. And they look for him again. Flags down. Christian, who fumbled and lost the ball in the last drive, sent that one way over and out of bounds, but the marker came down.
They're going to get a holding on Tejada right now. He got both hands extended.
Pass interference, number 11 of the defense. 15-yard penalty, automatic first down.
And just like I said, they'll use Winicky on the left side sometimes, this time on the right side. He got both hands right there. Stops the momentum well past the legal chuck line. That's the reason they threw that flag on Tejada.
Last season, TCU averaged 7 penalties per contest for 71 yards. 4 for 40 is the number tonight for the Horned Frogs and the season opener. Impressive by South Dakota State to not let conceding the 2 touchdowns get them down, as they had a nice kick return by Mingarelli, a pass play, and then a pass interference, and a dump off out of the backfield. They stay in bounds as Mingarelli catches it at the 31-yard line. Coming up, the FS1 College Football Halftime Show, talking upsets. Houston over Oklahoma, UCLA over Texas A&M, and a whole lot more. Looking for Winicky again. And the pass way over the top. 3rd and 7 after the incompletion.
Well, that's probably one that Christian is glad he overthrew. Tejada read the little out route, was right on the receiver. Had that ball been placed where it's supposed to be, I have a good feeling Tejada's going to make a break on that ball and try to make a play, either knocking it down or possibly a pick 6.
Winicky is wide to the right. Keep an eye on him. 3rd down. Time for Christian to throw, and he's looking for Winicky, and it's right on the money for a touchdown. What a throw!
And this is complete to number 19, Jake Winicky.
It's Tejada, it's Winicky. They've been battling all game, and that time it's Winicky just winning on the inside part. He sets it up. That little step right there, it's not much. But when you're even with the defender, you get a 2-way go. He knew exactly where he wanted to go, set up Tejada perfectly with the little slow step, cuts inside. Nobody between the quarterback and the receiver. It was a great throw and a great setup by Jake Winicky.
What a response by South Dakota State. They go back in front with 49 seconds left in the half.
Well, and you have to guess, after Tejada got the pass interference call, he doesn't want to be too physical, and that's a point right there where he needs to be physical. Winicky's slow off the line trying to set up his route. That's the time you get 1 jab, 2 jabs, get your hands on, slow down that timing route. He doesn't do that, mostly because of that pass interference call 2 plays before. Nice little execution there by Eric Eidness to recognize that and keep attacking the former freshman All-American in Ranthi Tejada.
You know, the interesting thing that Eric Eidness told us earlier this week is that in these big games against FBS opponents, he thinks that Jake Winicky certainly, and look, he has big numbers in a lot of games, but he certainly rises to the occasion in these contests. You look at Missouri 2 years ago, 107 receiving yards, and last year on the win against Kansas for Jake Winicky, 160 receiving yards and a couple of touchdowns. Tonight, 1 score, 6 catches, 110 yards overall.
Well, the thing that impresses me about that is when you're a 2-time All-American, you don't just sneak up on people, right? I mean, they're going to game plan for you. A lot of times they call special coverages where they'll put a corner on you, a safety on you, maybe box you with an outside linebacker. And so far, the focus has been on Winicky, and they still can't stop him. I think that's what's so neat about his performance in his college career so far is everybody tries to stop him, but nobody can.
They go with that short little pop-up kick by Sam Koob again, and it was fair caught. Cole Hunt. TCU has 3 timeouts, all 3 timeouts at 49 seconds. So they certainly have more than enough time and ability to stop the clock to move down the field and tie the game or go back in front.
Well, and that's how special teams can hurt you. A punt return by Turpin. They line him up as a kick returner as well, and that scares them into sky kicking it. That's not the situation you want. You don't sky kick right now with only 49 seconds left to give this offense a short field, but they have to because of the punt return.
From the 34, Hill to throw underneath, incomplete. Looking for the aforementioned Kevontae Turpin.
Well, like I said, any way to get the ball in this guy's hands. He's been dynamic, he's explosive, he's that home run hitter. He's the guy you're looking for in every clutch situation, not just on special teams. And once again, they tried that quick little drag across, cut the guys on the offensive line, cut those guys down. and try to throw the ball over the top is an errant throw.
Only 3 seconds go off the clock. Dropping to throw on second down. Bowling pass by Hill. And it's caught and upended at the 45-yard line was Taj Williams.
Well, that's their one guy that they want to be their new go-to threat. Down the middle of the field. On the outside, there's a soft little window playing that zone.
Throwing on the run. Nice catch. You think about Turpin and his elusiveness, but a diving grab by Turpin off the throw from Kenny Hill.
Wow. You got to have good hands and good concentration.
Timeout.
As we get a timeout right now by TCU.
Timeout of the half.
You have to have that skill set when you're catching punts and catching kickoff returns. But, man, he was on full display right there.
That's a 60-second timeout.
As we'll see right here, an out-cutting route. The ball's placed outside. He's got a full extension, and he caught the front part of that football. That's impressive by this. My goodness.
I think Emmanuel Porter's sitting down thinking it's coming to him. And look at Turpin.
It's not a well-thrown ball. Look at that thing wobbling. That'll throw most receivers off, even if it's thrown right at you. He makes that backyard diving catch that we all had when we were kids.
That was an 18-yard reception for Kavonte Turpin. His day has featured running, catching, returning. There's that running play early in the game, Ben.
A little trickeration shot you saw in that first play, taking a hit, showing his toughness, showing the footwork, and then all of a sudden they out-kick the coverage on the punt. A nice block down the middle of the field that springs them. This is what really turned the game around right there. And then we had the fumble by Taryn Christian, and TCU now is on top.
We're at the South Dakota State 25, and Hill is throwing, and he puts it right on the money to Taj Williams. Stays in bounds, but TCU, as we noted earlier, they had all 3 of their timeouts to start the drive.
TCU, second charge timeout. 30-second timeout.
Now they have 1. They've used up 2 timeouts on the drive, and they have a big second down coming up.
Well, and that's the risk reward you have to think about when you sky kick like that late in this first half. Again, they were scared off by Turpin going to field that kick return. They felt like he's got the momentum, he's quick, he's shifty, he's such a threat back there that now we have to take that risk of sky kicking it, giving this offense a short field, and TCU's doing exactly what you're supposed to do in that situation, methodically going down. Great catch by Turpin, and now they're sitting here within a scoring chance, a field goal or putting this thing in the end zone.
You know, it's probably time to talk a little bit about the kicking situation for TCU. Jaden Oberchrome, who had 79 field goals over 4 years, is gone. If they do go into a field goal situation here, Ryan Graff and Brian Hatfield are the options. Graff's handled the extra points tonight. Hatfield has the bigger leg. It's not a long field goal if they stall out around this neighborhood. Obviously, they are thinking bigger, though, than settling for just 3 points. It's at the 21 of the Jackrabbits on second down at 6. 20 seconds left in the half. Hill, it's bobbled and caught. Ty Slanina sliding down right around the 15. Looks like it will be a first down. Clock stop to move the chains. They'll go ahead and clock it right here at the line of scrimmage. So it will be 12 seconds and a second down coming up, Ben.
Now you got to dial up some quick hitting plays, possibly one shot in the end zone. Preserve this one timeout until you really need it. But I'm guessing 12 seconds left. That's actually plenty of time in this offense. You can probably get off 3 plays in this offense in 12 seconds.
Empty backfield. As Ben noted, they do have a timeout. It's at the 15. Hill's got a good pocket. Hill's going to put this ball into the end zone, and it's almost intercepted. Whoa! Zy Mosley had it hit him in the hands.
Man, once again, just floating that football, telegraphing that thing right down the middle of the field. And the thing that's a little worrisome with Kenny Hill is for a quarterback, the plays down the middle of the field, those throws, those are the easiest to make. It's the out-cutting routes, the outside throws. Those are the hard ones. And he's floated a couple balls over the middle. One's been picked off. That one was knocked down.
Ryan Graff will try this 32-yard field goal. He won't just yet,
Timeout.
however.
South Dakota State. Second charge team timeout. 30-second timeout.
Graff is a redshirt freshman. And once again, there is a gaping hole that has to be filled. TCU has such a history of great kickers, and many of them jump right in as freshmen and handle it for 4 straight years, just like Arlington's Jaden Oberchrome did, and handle it so well in the case of Oberchrome over 4 years. And now you have, I mean, this is certainly not a high pressure kick, but it's the first try for a field goal. It's trying to tie the game at halftime against an opponent that you didn't think you'd be trailing against, Ben.
Right, you know, this isn't the Fiesta Bowl here for his first kick, but this is still pretty scary for a guy that's young like this in this spot.
Punter Adam Nunez is the holder. And here's Ryan Graff lining it up from 32 yards to tie it at the end of the first half. Stamped by Matt Boggs. Oh, and it pings in off the upright. He hooked it. But the woodwork was kind to Ryan Graff.
You know, sometimes there's that saying, it's better to be lucky than good.
I've heard that.
I've heard that too. And that, I think that's pretty fitting for that kick right there. It wasn't pretty. Certainly wasn't technique. But you gotta have some luck sometimes. But that's it. You got the first kick. It's out of the way. Tied this game up 24-24. Gonna go in the locker room, take a deep breath. Got all the cobwebs out. He's got to come out again and make another kick late in this game. Maybe he won't have some of those nerves like he had in that last kick.
He still came over and got a slap on the helmet for the deep snapper, Matt Boggs.
Well, you got to stay positive. Again, it wasn't pretty, but it's 3 points. Hey, it's not 2. It's 3. It still counts.
I've been told before they don't take pictures, Ben, in terms of making field goals. So the bottom line is it went through the uprights. And Graff will kick it off. And barring an unforeseen set of circumstances, to say the least.
You know, a lot of times when you get an interception or like in baseball you hit a home run, you get to keep that ball, right? Especially like it's your first one.
Yeah.
That one's probably going to have a little yellow paint on it.
I don't know if he wants to keep it. Graff will kick off now. The redshirt freshman from Los Angeles. He'll squib it. What an ebb and flow of performance and emotion we've seen from these two teams in the first 30 minutes.
Well, that's what's been fun and kind of surprising about this game is...
Game clock. Please put 1 second on the clock. 1 second.
You look at this game on paper, and I think everybody expected TCU to jump out to an early and a big lead and just kind of maintain that through. But, you know, a tough opponent in South Dakota State. They're tied right now. A lot of big plays. You saw some momentum shifts. You saw, you know, the energy of TCU down and South Dakota State's up. And big plays here and there. Special teams plays, which are always exciting. This is a heck of a football game right here in this first half, I should say.
In the last 8 seasons, TCU has played an FCS opponent in each of them and won the games by an average score of 57-11. Tonight, they're playing the 8th-ranked team from FCS, South Dakota State, Missouri Valley Football Conference, and we've got ourselves a tie game, 24-24, and Leslie McCaslin is with South Dakota State coach John Sigelmeyer.
Well, Coach Stig, you told me before the game we'd be talking first at halftime. What made you so confident in your guys before tonight?
I love them. I love them. They play so hard. They walk onto this field and believe they can win, and I got to support them, so I got to be bold for them.
So what did they do in the first half that you have to continue to do in the second in order to win?
Well, we have to make big plays like we did, and then we got to make them drive the field because we didn't. We gave them the short field on the fumble. We gave them a long touchdown on the punt return. So if we play defense like we can, we got a chance.
All right, thanks, Coach. Good luck.
Well, he's in the foxhole with his guys, Coach John Stiglmeyer. Coach Stig, they call him, in Brookings, South Dakota. And they've made the trip down to Fort Worth, and it is tied. South Dakota State And TCU ranked number 13 in the nation to start the 2016 season. It's Fox College football. And get ready for a great second half. It's locked up at 24-all after the first 30 minutes. As you saw some of the first half action, I would have to say that here at Amon Carter Stadium in Fort Worth tonight, as we see FBS ranked number 13 TCU and FCS ranked number 8 South Dakota State, it has been a fun, entertaining, up and down flow of emotion first half of football. Mark Followell, Ben Lever with the call tonight here, Fox College football. And Ben, I loved what we've seen out of these two teams in the opener of the season tonight through 30 minutes.
Well, the thing that I loved is the FCS level South Dakota State Jackrabbits have risen up and played a tough TCU team that a lot of people think they're going to win this conference in the Big 12. They're not shying away. They're matching physicality with physicality. They're being athletic, just like TCU is. And right now we've got tie ball game because of big plays, but a lot of it because South Dakota State has not backed down at all.
They certainly haven't. They really were able to gear up from a defensive perspective after TCU jumped out to an early lead. But here's one of their first big plays defensively. Micaiah Slade with an interception, and it leads to this.
Well, it leads to that, and TCU started off hot. Then they started slowing down their tempo. They float a ball over the middle, and they keep that momentum, and South Dakota State goes 87 yards on that run. They pick off another interception by jumping a route, and it's the 14 points off of those turnovers have been a huge difference. And Taryn Christian running in the end zone, again, keeping that momentum, but here comes the momentum shifter off a punt return touchdown by Turpin. They come back with that and 14 unanswered points to respond for TCU.
There is that fumble that TCU recovered and Kenny Hill ran in. Oh, no, you mentioned a punt return. I love the sign we're going to see here. Turpin time as Cavante Turpin runs it in 81 yards out.
Well, they've been utilizing him all game long, offense, defense, and in special teams.
Winicky late in the first half. Wonderful throw. Winicky looked it right in for the touchdown reception. And as we look at the first half stats, South Dakota State's outgained TCU 296 yards to 243. And almost 19 minutes time of possession for South Dakota State in the first half. Well, we've heard from Coach Stick for South Dakota State. Now Leslie McCaslin talks to TCU head coach Gary Patterson.
All right, Coach, you told us before the game this was going to be a game and that they were tough. What had they done in the first half?
Well, the number one, we're not lining up their shifts. We got a new couple safeties. We got to get it lined up, and we got to play, and we got to tackle. We knew what kind of team had coming in. This team's a ranked 1AA school. Offensively, you can't turn the ball over. We had to have something good happen. Special teams it did. And then we got the ball on a turnover, and then it was 24-24. But the bottom line to it is we didn't play very well at all, being really both sides, and we're tied up. So we got to get ready to play.
All right, good luck. Thanks, Coach.
South Dakota State, the kicking unit has come out on the field, and the TCU return unit now heading out. That's Isaac Wallace you're getting a look at right now. Wallace had the 87-yard touchdown run early on in the second quarter. That was after the first TCU turnover. And there's Turpin, Cavante Turpin, with the big plays, the big play that is in the first half. The 81-yard punt return. So we have seen both sides strike for huge yardage touchdown plays. Taryn Christian, South Dakota State quarterback, loosening up, but it will be up to the Jackrabbit defense to start the third quarter off on the right foot from their perspective.
Well, and this is those situations why you win the toss, you defer because you want to get the ball in the second half. They want to keep the momentum that they gathered there at the end of the second quarter and see if they can do something with it. Take a little bit of that. I'm sure they got a little bit of a chewing in the locker room by Coach Patterson. You heard him talk about defensively, they're not tackling. This is going to be interesting to see how they respond in that locker room setting and carry it over right here in the second half.
We've seen Sam Koob sky kick it on a handful of occasions for South Dakota State, but obviously he's got a big leg as he put that one well into the end zone where Deontay Gray takes a knee. Kyle Hicks, the leading rusher, with 43 yards for TCU. Devontae Turpin with the 157 all-purpose yards. And, of course, it's Kenny Hill at quarterback. The transfer from Texas A&M. Hands the ball off. Hicks ran out of an ankle tackle. He was able to maneuver away from Anthony Washington. Nick Farina ends up with a stop after a gain of 3.
Well, again, I've been really impressed with this South Dakota State defense and how well they flow to the football. If one guy misses the tackle, that's fine. Everybody's trained to get off the blocks up front and run to the football and pursue, just like on that last play.
Hill rolling. Hill throwing. Deflection. Dallas Brown got a paw on it. Incompletion will bring up 3rd and 7.
Well, Dallas Brown is going to come on your right side of the screen. He pushes down the receiver. Then he frees himself up and makes the play right there to get his hand on the football. So he does a great job disrupting the route and then causing the PBU.
Handful of players from Arizona on this South Dakota State roster, including that linebacker, Dallas Brown from Tucson, who had 1 interception last year. Hill, quick throw, found Taj Williams, and his first night as a TCU Horned Frog. Taj Williams continues to go well, grabbing the pass on 3rd and 7 for a first down.
You know, I know this is a quick strike offense, but right now, if you're the safeties and corners for South Dakota State, anytime that you can peek at the quarterback to see where he's looking, you break on that football because he's not taking his eyes away at all.
That was 10 yards to Taj Williams. Now big Derek Green, the 235-pound back, will tote it for a couple on a 1st and 10 snap from the 38.
And I think Derek would love to have that play back. He kind of just buried his body in the middle there, but if he just would have peeked out to the right side, there was some daylight. He's a big bruising type of runner, north and south type guy, but you have to have a little bit more vision. Could have picked up some extra yards there.
In 3 years with Michigan, Derek Green ran for almost 900 yards and 7 touchdowns. Back to throw Hill. A step up and a throw down the middle, and is caught at the 30-yard line, and running out of a tackle is Jalen Austin, and running into the end zone is Jalen Austin for a touchdown, 60 yards.
Well, you want to talk about a confidence booster for Kenny Hill. In that first half, he had 2 costly interceptions that led to 14 points for South Dakota State. This time, it's the athleticism, using his legs to get out of the pocket a little bit. A deep dig by Jalen Austin, singled up on the corner, does a great job of breaking a tackle and showing off some speed to give TCU their first score here in the second half.
The sophomore from South Grand Prairie High School. He had 2 touchdown receptions last year, and Jalen Austin finds the end zone for the first time this year. The 60-yard pitch and catch from Hill to Austin puts Kenny Hill now at 226 passing yards tonight. Ryan Graff extends the lead to 7. Kenny Hill to Jalen Austin. And TCU now leading again. A 31-24 advantage for the Horned Frogs at home against South Dakota State. There have been 4 lead changes tonight. TCU now in front of South Dakota State. 31-24. Jalen Austin from Kenny Hill, a 60-yard touchdown. Cole Bunce ready to kick off. Brady Mingarelli, Marquise Lewis are back for South Dakota State. Big leg by Bunce, driving Mingarelli deep back into the end zone. The Jackrabbits will start at their own 25-yard line, down by 7 because of this.
All right, well, here he is, Jalen Austin down at the bottom of your screen, the #1 receiver. Watch this. He knows he has the corner beat right there. Right when the hips turn, he runs the route right at him, makes the corner commit. The corner thinks he's going to run a go route, a 9 route. That's how you break off a skinny post in one-on-one coverage. You wait for that corner to get antsy, to get impatient, turn your hips. Right when he did that, stuck that foot in the ground, he knows he had him. Nice throw and a great route by Jalen Austin.
Taryn Christian, the starter at quarterback for South Dakota State. He started 4 games last year, played in 8. He takes a handoff, and he'll go up top, and Goddard to tight end, catches and rumbles down near the TCU 40. Quick strike to start the drive for South Dakota State.
Well, this is why he's named a preseason All-American. Had a great year last year. Kind of forgotten so far in this game. It's been a lot of Winicky, a lot of Isaac Wallace, but you get Dallas Goddard up the seam, that brings a whole new element. Another thing defensively to have to think about. You think all your threats are in the run game and outside the numbers. You get a pass-catching tight end up the seam, that's tough sledding for the defense.
Not a lot of those in the Big 12 these days, pass-catching tight ends. That went for 35 yards. And they'll throw again, and this one too tall. Not an easy thing to do to overthrow 6'4" Jake Winicky, but Christian does.
No, it's hard to do that, especially the range that Winicky has. I mean, he's got a great vertical, athletic, long arms, especially that goes, coincides with a 6'4" frame. It's hard to overthrow a guy like that.
6 catches, 110 yards. Closing in on 3,000 receiving yards, and he's a junior from Maple Grove, Minnesota. Isaac Wallace, who has the big 87-yard touchdown run tonight, just submarines down toward the 36 of TCU. Denzel Johnson, senior from Gainesville, Texas, safety on the TCU defense, 4th of the team in tackles last year with 79.
Well, this is what TCU's defense didn't really do in the first half. South Dakota State averaged 10.2 yards on first down. They get an incomplete pass, a 4-yard gain. It sets up a 3rd and manageable for the defense. Advantage TCU right now.
Goddard moved from left to right in the formation, and they'll throw it inside, and we see a catch for the first time of the game for Adam Anderson, and he'll surge inside the 30 to move the chains for the Jackrabbits.
And 54, Joseph Broadnax, the interior line, knew that this play was coming. This little slip screen, you'll come see him in the screen right there. He actually dropped out in sort of a spy coverage. His eyes took him right over that slip screen, but they just could not respond quick enough. Nice execution by South Dakota State. It was a nice try by Gary Patterson to have a spy there, just didn't get there quick enough.
7 yards to Adam Anderson. We talked with some folks from South Dakota State before the game. They said he was fantastic on the scout team last year, and the redshirt freshman has his first catch. Isaac Wallace running off the left. Picked up a couple.
Well, in that time, Joseph Broadnax, number 54, they said, I don't want to spy anymore. I want to play him with a defensive tackle plays. He plays the run, does a great job extending his arms and getting out, getting just an arm and a shoulder on the ball carrier right there. So they're asking these guys, they're big and athletic up front. They're asking them to do a whole lot by spying and coverage and playing the run game as tough as they are.
Broadnax, 300 pounds from Bryan Adams High School in Dallas. Brady Mingarelli back in the game, and he ran over Nick Orr. He won't pick up the first down, but he certainly made Nick Orr pay the price for trying to make that stop, and Mingarelli down to the 22.
Yeah, Mingarelli's not going to wow you with just his physical presence. Not a big guy, only 5'10", but watch how hard he lowers that shoulder, keeps his pads right behind his knees, and gets those knees driving. He laid a wallop on Nick Orr right there.
I think he was excited to deliver that hit as the running back.
Those hits feel good. Unfortunately, as a defensive player, I was on the wrong end of those sometimes.
Mingarelli's run got it to the 21. It's 3rd down and 3, and Christian will rifle it, and it's caught. They go to Connor Landberg, a senior from Laguna Hills, California.
Well, Gary Patterson brought some heat right there. They blitzed, but what happened when you've got a quick hitting play, you've only got 3 yards to pick up. You got to start. You can't blitz from depth. They did a good job disguising, but when you blitz from depth right there and you run the quick slants, you just open up those windows and you get no pressure on the quarterback.
They've had a 3rd and 6. They passed for 7 yards. They had a 3rd and 3 there, and they passed it for 6 down to the 16-yard line. And a throw, and it's a wide open tight end. Dallas Goedert is into the end zone. South Dakota State an extra point away from tying the game at Fort Worth.
Touchdown, South Dakota State.
16 yards to Britain, South Dakota's Dallas Goedert, the tight end.
Here he is right here. He's going to sneak in. Watch all the action in the backfield. That's going to take everybody's eyes away. Christian does a great job of just kind of waggling and rolling to the right as well, selling it very well. And Goedert, patient, pats his feet, cuts across the formation. Fantastic play calling right there for South Dakota State.
Fake the fly sweep, fake the inside handoff.
And they've been doing that all game. They've been setting that stuff up the whole time.
And it's set up perfectly there for Dallas Goedert to go into the end zone from 16 yards out. Karen Christian with a lot to celebrate, and Dallas Goedert as well. We're all locked up at 31. TCU struck first, but South Dakota State answered with a touchdown drive here early in the third quarter. Dallas Goedert started the drive with a 35-yard catch and ended the drive with a 16-yard catch. 8 plays, 75 yards, almost 4 minutes for John Stiglmeyer and the South Dakota State Jackrabbits.
You know, I'm so impressed with just the execution, how well coached South Dakota State is on both offense and defense. You know, they've had some miscues, but they've looked fantastic tonight.
Fair catch on the pop-up kick, caught at the 27-yard line for TCU. Here's Mike Hill in Los Angeles now with a Fox College football game break.
After a slow, Mark and Ben, back to you.
Well, the can that we're looking at here is, can South Dakota State continue to stay in this game? They are playing toe-to-toe with TCU through 2.5 quarters. It's tied at 31. TCU, after a fair catch on the kickoff, is starting at their own 28. Hill with a quick pass. He's got a wide open Emmanuel Porter, who makes one man miss. Up the sideline and pushed out around midfield by Micaiah Slade, who had an interception in the first half.
You know, if Kenny Hill could continue to do that right there, he threw that football before Emmanuel Porter came out of his break. I don't care who you are as a corner, those are hard plays to stop. There's nothing to cue off of, no keys. Next thing you know, ball is there, it's hard to make a play.
Kenny Hill's completed 2/3 of his passes tonight, 18 out of 27. He's also thrown 2 picks. He's got a roll out of the pocket. He pump fakes. He'll tuck it under. This play started at the 49 of TCU, and now they move into Jackrabbit territory. The gain is 5 yards. In 2014, 8 games at Texas A&M for Kenny Hill. Threw for nearly 2,650 yards, 23 touchdowns, 8 picks. And he'll sling it. And Turpin has it. Just not enough space for Turpin to make moves, and has to step out at the 36 of South Dakota State.
And those plays only work if you get your receiver that's outside to get a key block, as did Taj Williams there. #1 receiver. He still has to do the duty, the dirty job of putting his hands on the corner. He does a good job sealing off right there.
TCU sub Taj Williams came out of the game. Hill will dump it off. Kyle Hicks with a block and space, and to the sideline, and steps out of bounds. The TCU offense moving quickly. 3 first downs picked up on the drive now.
It's pretty close to a high-low block here right on the outside. They kind of get away with one as they pick up another key first down.
And another quick snap and another pass short. They went right last time, left this time to Kyle Hicks. Flags came in as well. Something to sort out here with 8:17 left in the third quarter. The referee, Eddie Shelton. The drive started at the 28. It's moved down to the 21.
Illegal substitution. Defense. Personal foul. Shot block. Number 51, Number 58. Those fouls offset. Replay first down.
So they're going to get Patrick Morris, 58, and Austin Schlottman, the guard and left guard and center respectively, on a chop block. And like I was saying before, on that quick pass on the play before, there's two receivers that could have had that same sort of chop block situation. So they got to be real careful in their discipline on how they block right now.
The offsetting penalties put it right back at 1st and 10. And big, strong, tough running here from Derek Green. Ran out of a tackle and burst to the sideline. Out of bounds. It'll be 1st and goal.
You know, there was a play before where I talked about Derek Green missed a cut to his right. That time he saw the hole, put his pads down, and the former 5-star high school recruit kind of showed what he's made of.
Recruited out of Richmond, Virginia to Michigan, now transferring to TCU, where he's playing for the first time tonight. South Dakota State keeps Derek Green out of the end zone on the 1st and goal run. Got it down to the 3.
Well, they take the big guys out and replace them with a little bit of speed as Kyle Hicks comes into the backfield now. Their most dependable and reliable back as they get near the end zone.
Also tight end Charlie Reed is an H-back. Emmanuel Porter. Taj Williams, the split receivers. Hicks, undercut right at the line. That's submarined by safety Chris Balster.
Yeah, I know that you want a quick hitting play. That's an outstanding fill right there. Sacrificing your body. Chris Ballister gets in there, makes a nice little stop right there on the goal line. Those are the times where I think you leave Derek Green in, a bigger body that can power through some of those tackles.
In a tie game, it's 3rd down and goal at the 3. And it's a pitch on the option. Hill to Hicks, that is, and Hicks for the pylon and in.
Well, that's a nice little wrinkle there for Doug Meacham, the offensive coordinator. We have not seen speed option yet this game. They busted out here on 3rd and goal. And Nick Farina, number 24, does a great job of pursuing the pitch man. It's just that Hicks was just too fast to get to that corner.
Like that block on the edge, too, by Taj Williams to make sure to hold off the oncoming defenders.
The previous play of a touchdown is under further review.
Well, now maybe he didn't get inside that pylon. You bring up Taj Williams, that's the 2nd or 3rd time we've called his name this game, not just for receiving, as they want him to be a big play receiver, but he's doing his job, the dirty work on the outside on some of these run plays and screen passes of blocking the outside defender.
At 6'4", 193, that rangy kind of receiver who has the ability to do that.
That looks like, to me, that's a touchdown.
The question is, you know, he puts the ball on the outside. So does the ball ever cross the plane? I mean, we saw his feet go inside the pylon, Ben, but
is there, since they said it was a touchdown to begin with, is there enough evidence to say that it's overturned and the ball did not get in? From what we're seeing right now, I don't know. I don't think there's enough to overturn it. Now, could have went the other way. If they said that's not a touchdown and they got reviewed, again, it'd be hard to overturn it and say it is.
Yeah, I'm with you. This, I think more than anything, it's going to be inconclusive. That would be the likely thought right now. You saw him switch the ball from right to left, protecting it from the oncoming defenders. Obviously, the last thing you want to do as a runner there is see it dislodged and jarred out right at the goal line.
The ruling on the field of a touchdown stands.
It's not enough.
Yeah, just not enough. I mean, he did what he's supposed to do, like you said. Got the ball on the right side, wants to take it away from the defenders, puts it in the left side. And I think that's kind of what they looked at, but clearly he got his whole body across, got the ball across that plane of glass that is the end zone.
That field goal didn't look very good at the end of the first half, but Ryan Graf's extra point was right down the middle. 8-play, 72-yard drive, capped with a third down option run for Kyle Hicks. And TCU breaks the tie and is on top by 7. Gary Patterson sees his team go back in front. It hasn't been a huge yardage day for Kyle Hicks, 49 rushing yards, but he's found the end zone twice, including on that 3-yard run. Lead is now 7 for TCU. Kenny Hill thrown for 272 yards. South Dakota State offense marched right down the field last go around. And they're about to get the ball here after the Cole Bunch kickoff. And we'll see if South Dakota State can match TCU again. Vengarelli will have a chance to return from the 5. Hit at the 20. Down around the 20. Well, if they're going to continue to match TCU's offensive output, they got to keep finding All-American wide receiver Jake Winicki. This is the Texas Farm Bureau All-Access Update.
You know, the thing that really stands out to me is it's not just his size and his catch radius, but he runs such good routes. He has a natural feel. They talk about
23 of the kicking team.
They talk about his natural instincts, feeling just like that, setting up the corner, running right at him, sticking his foot in the ground, and getting his body in the best position to make catches. I'm really impressed for being still a young player, having the wherewithal to understand how to attack corners, how to use his big body. He uses his body like a big tight end, but he also has the speed to make plays. He probably won't wow you in a straight 40-yard dash, but this young man has football speed. When he puts the pads on, his body does not slow down at all. He continues to make play after play. Doesn't matter the level of competition. He's making plays against FCS. He makes plays against FBS.
And we noted earlier, 107 receiving yards against Missouri 2 years ago. 160 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns against Kansas last year. Now, just in case you're wondering what's happened here, there was an offside on the kicking team on TCU. And South Dakota State has opted to force TCU to re-kick it with hopes of maybe increasing their field position, bettering their field position, I should say. It's a good number that the fellows in the truck just showed you on Jake Winicki, closing in on 3,000 career receiving yards. Cooper Kupp is the only player in Division I, FBS or FCS. He's in Eastern Washington, the only player with more receiving yards in the last 2 seasons than Jake Winicki.
Well, you know, as we set up this re-kick, this is always the scary thing as a special teams coach, because now your guys are a little gun shy. They jumped the line the first time, 5-yard penalty. Now they're being told to kind of hold the reins back a little bit, so they won't be going down the field as fast as they were the first time.
Vengarelli will have a chance to return it again. We'll see if their decision pays off. Vengarelli moving to the outside. Caught it all the way over on the right sideline, took it into the middle of the field, and stopped at the 22.
And they took all of that way, like I just said, with an exceptional kick to the corner. When you pin the returner out just like that, that boundary becomes an extra guy. There's no other place for him to go. He doesn't have a two-way go. You know that he's got to take it out towards the field. So that's really a benefit. Kind of takes away from the lack of aggression of your cover team when you have a kicker that can place it just like that.
Darren Christian. Remember, you got Zach Lujan from Anchorage, Alaska, who started several games last year, the majority of the games at quarterback last year. But Christian, with 4 starts last season and the start tonight to open up 2016, has completed 70% of his passes. This last drive ended with a touchdown throw to Dallas Goedert. This drive starts with a throw to the tight end, Dallas Goedert. 8 yards up to the 30.
And just like I was commenting with Kenny Hill in the previous drive about getting the ball out before the receiver even comes out of his break, Darren Christian does the exact same thing. When you got a big body tight end, it's hard to break on those guys and make a play on the ball when that timing route is perfect, perfectly executed. He knew exactly when Dallas Goddard was going to come out of his break. He puts it right where he can get it. That's a great first down play. And now you have 2nd and 3. You can call a big shot right here if you want to.
Yeah, the back of the ball just touching the 29-yard line. So officially a 2nd and 3. Christian will hand it off, or no, fake the handoff. Well done on the fake. He had Goddard going down the left side and overthrows him with Nick Orr on the coverage of Goddard.
Well, there it was, 2nd and 3, 2nd short. Those are usually kind of the home run calls for the offensive coordinator. As a defense, it's really hard to get a bead on what the offenses can do. Are they just going to go for a quick hitting play just to pick up the first down? It's kind of a waste down. They could throw it on a deep shot like they did to Goddard, hope something good happens. In the worst case scenario, now you've got 3rd and 3, another manageable down and distance.
They had a lot of those tonight. 6 out of 10 is what South Dakota State has done, converting 3rd downs. Oh, they fumbled the handoff. Christian's back on it. They'll have to punt. Now, they don't concede possession deep in their own end of the field, but they short-circuit any chance to pick up the 3rd and short.
You know, so reminiscent of the play that he fumbled in the first half. A little read option. That time they tell those quarterbacks to put it in their firm. And the running back's supposed to grab on it as hard as they can because they're expecting to get the football. It's up to the quarterback at the last second to pull it out or to give it. That looked like he just had some indecision on what he was going to do.
Now number 88.
Saw a play like that today where Greg Ward and Houston fumbled going in for a touchdown late in the game. Didn't cost them. They won by 10 against Oklahoma. Turpin backpedaling. Turpin cuts, spins, marker down. Turpin is down at the 34, and one would surmise that they'll probably be retreating with the penalty.
Boy, that's always a scary proposition when you get the punter kind of a low liner.
Oh, yeah.
And the returner catches the ball, and there's not a gunner, there's not a person in sight for 10 yards.
Return. Illegal block in the back. TCU. Number 13. 10-yard penalty. First down.
You know, outside of the block in the back, South Dakota State's lucky they didn't get hit with another kick out or punt return.
Timeout, 4:41 left in the 3rd quarter. First start tonight at TCU for Kenny Hill, the transfer from Texas A&M. Had a little bump in the road early in the 2nd quarter. He threw an interception to Micaiah Slade, then threw another one to Jordan Brown. But since then, Kenny Hill has found a really good rhythm and chemistry with his receivers, Ben.
Well, he really has. It's been a kind of a tale of 2 halves here. His 2 interceptions lead to 14 points for South Dakota State. But, you know, he has calmed down. I think the one thing I didn't want to see out of him, though, you know, given his whole background and history, is when he's down, I understand that you're solely responsible for those interceptions. When your offense is down and there's no energy, you have to be the one to pick everybody up. And he did not do that in the first half.
9 for 13 with a touchdown pass since that 2nd interception for Kenny Hill. Has a good pocket, throws to Ty Solanina, and Solanina able to run out of a tackle attempt by Jesse Bobbitt and inch forward for a couple of extra yards. Jared Bloom is the one who brought him down.
You know, we're starting to see more and more of this offensive line doing a better job of protecting him and giving him more time.
And he throws here on 2nd down, and it's incomplete for Taj Williams.
You know, I think it's going to take some time. You know, we talk about Taj Williams being hopefully the next Josh Doxson up here, down here at TCU. It's going to take some time. Kenny Hill's new. He practiced with him last year in the spring and all that stuff, but that chemistry that people talk about, it does take time to develop.
Emmanuel Porter, another guy also who would be a candidate to step into that lead receiver role. Dropping back. Out of the pocket, Hill. This is 3rd and 4. Hill is going to run for it. And he's able to tiptoe out of bounds, past the stick. Needed to reach the 28, and Hill runs out to the 29. 3rd down conversion. Hill with time to throw. Hill finds a man, Taj Williams, on the sideline.
Pass complete to Taj Williams.
And up near midfield, you know, once again we see Hill was able to run on third down, Ben, and when he's dropping back to throw most of the time here in the second half, he has had very little pressure.
Very little pressure, a lot of time, and I think it's encouraging. That's a long throw out to the outside. Shows a lot of arm strength and accuracy at the same time.
And time here. Finally, the protection breaks down, but he still throws, and it's caught by Des White.
I tell you what, that's a gutsy throw. Falling back off your back foot. He's had a number of interceptions. I'm surprised he made that throw, but it was a great touch pass to Desmond White.
And here's a dump off on the right side, and Hicks got a block. And Hicks is hit hard. Whoa! Whoa! Walloped by Christian Roseboom.
And Roseboom, who I think was responsible for that first interception, is making his presence felt, flying all over the football field, and the redshirt freshman just delivered a wallop right there on one of the better players for TCU.
12 yards on the pass play, but Kyle Hicks had the boom lowered on him by Roseboom. Now Hicks will run it, and Roseboom got him again. Not a hard hit, but brought him down a couple of yards short of the first down.
Well, here it is, the big hit we're talking about. Roseboom doing a great job just pursuing and lowering his shoulder and thrusting into Kyle Hicks. That was one heck of a play.
And now slow to get up is Dallas Brown. Dallas Brown is down here for South Dakota State with 3:15 to play in the third quarter. The third quarter started with the game tied at 24. TCU drove and scores a touchdown. South Dakota State answered. TCU drives and gets a short run by Kyle Hicks on third down to go in front 38-31. And in South Dakota State's last drive, hopes for it going anywhere came to an end when they fumbled on 3rd and 3. They didn't lose the ball, but they had to punt. And TCU has marched from their own 18 to the South Dakota State 15. Dallas Brown helped off the field. Hill is back. Now here comes pressure. Then Hill throws and loops it out toward the sideline of the 5. Turpin gave up a little bit of ground, but this is still a first down and goal now coming for TCU.
That's the first time in a while we've seen some pressure. It was just a 4-man pressure, a 3-man look. They brought a 4th guy off the edge who was scot-free, but a nice play.
Quarterback draw. Kenny Hill diving end zone. Touchdown TCU.
Series to me was all about rhythm. There's rhythm in the play calling. They got Kenny Hill settled down a little bit. He made some plays throwing the football, and then you get close to the end zone, and again, he's an athletic, big-bodied presence guy. You spread everybody out, open up the middle of the field for your quarterback that can run it in.
And we do see the sweet feet there of Kenny Hill, but the arm is delivering the goods here. As of late, Ben, 10 of his last 11 passes have been completed. Just had that one off-target pass to Taj Williams earlier on this drive. Now the lead is 14. TCU has their most significant cushion in terms of a lead on the scoreboard of the game. It's the first time, as a matter of fact, that they've had a 2-score lead, Ben.
Well, this is going to be a major test, really, for both sides. Is TCU's defense going to let up at all? Or are they going to stay on the gas and step on the throats of South Dakota State? And conversely, can South Dakota State manage what's going on right now and bounce back? They've been tough. They've been gritty. They've shown that absolutely we can play with these guys. So they can't panic either. They can't think that, oh, now we've got to get it all in one play. They can't go out of character. They can't go off script. Stick to what they're doing right now. They've had some beautiful play calls. They set up a lot of plays with a lot of stuff, a lot of backfield motion, a lot of ghost motion. Keep doing those things to keep TCU's defense on their heels.
TCU has, in this third quarter, driven 75 yards for a touchdown to start it off. Then 72 yards. This last drive was 9 plays, 82 yards. And we continue to see Kenny Hill get better and better as the night goes on. Now, the 2 interceptions, obviously the blemishes on the first half, but look at those second half numbers. Pass passing touchdown, rushing touchdown, and a completion performance of 83%. Running it out from the 1-yard line is Brady Mengarelli. And upended at the 21 by Sammy Douglas. Douglas, another one of those defensive players that missed almost all of last season for TCU. He was injured in the first game against Minnesota. Remember, Anthony Tejada got hurt last year in the third game against SMU. Kenny Iloka was hurt in the second game of the year against Stephen F. Austin. James McFarland went out before the year even started, and there were more injuries that cropped up throughout the course of the season.
Douglas missed this season.
Yep.
He's an outside linebacker that they're counting on for this year.
Isaac Wallace is into the game at running back for South Dakota State. He's had the biggest play of the night for them. Throwing the ball to the right side to Winicky. I'm sorry, that's 18, not 19. That's Connor Landberg who caught it.
You know, that's dangerous when all of a sudden the last two series you've gotten Dallas Goedert involved in this offense. Now it's given everybody something to look at as far as defense. It's not just Winicky. And then you get Landberg involved. Isaac Wallace, who ripped off that huge run in the first half. You get him in the backfield. There's a lot of weapons on this offense now that are starting to get involved in this football game, which is bad for this TCU defense.
See what they opt to do on 2nd and 1. They try to go with a long pass on 2nd and 3 a minute ago, but this time they'll go with the conservative play to make sure to pick up the first down, which they do. The Isaac Wallace run brought down by Denzel Johnson, that is, up near the 34.
You know what I like seeing on that last play was they knew they had just a few yards to get that first down. And those offensive linemen, they were 8 yards down the field finishing off blocks. These guys are still grinding. They understand the importance of this game. They're going to keep bringing it play after play.
Last 2 minutes of the third quarter. Christian steps up, and he goes with a safety valve, cutting all the way across the field now is Isaac Wallace, and he's hit and brought down outside the 45 by Nico Small.
Check out Fupunga Toa right here. He's the left guard on this chip outside. He picks up the blitzing guy off the edge. Look at the explosion in that, just creating that hole. Saw the open guy. His job is to pick up the most dangerous man on the edge. He did just that to give Christian enough time to deliver that football.
It was a good block on Tipa Galliai. Down the middle of the play fake, and it's going to be a flag. Goddard incompletion, but too much contact before the ball got there from Nick Orr.
It's that backside arm. That's what got him. It's not the front side arm. That left backside arm got wrapped around the receiver and kind of pulled him a little bit.
Pass interference. Or 15 to the defense. 15-yard penalty. Automatic first down.
I think they got it wrong. I think it's number 18, Nick Orr. See that backside arm? Everything else is fine. It's a good job of baseball arming that, not swiping at the football. You have a better chance of using a baseball technique to try to catch that ball.
Number 12 of the defense.
That's not number 12 either. That's all right. That's all right. Hey,
I thought it was I thought it was 19, not 18 a minute ago. With
don't count my mistakes this game.
Lavoda and Goddard, two tight ends, move before the snap. And they'll get Brady Mengarelli running downhill behind those two tight ends who are lined up on the left side and moving from the 39 down to the 34.
And again, they keep chipping away at first down. First down has been a killer right now for TCU in this defense. A lot of times it's 2nd 3, 2nd 4 for this offense for South Dakota State. 2nd 5 right now. I think if we go back and look at this, we talk to Gary Patterson, no matter what happens in this game, they win, lose, or whatever, he's going to be very upset on the first down defense for TCU.
Overall tonight, South Dakota State has 403 yards of offense as we look at what might be the last play of the third quarter. And it's an air out deep to the end zone. Oh my, it is caught. Touchdown, great hands, Jake Winicky.
Is this guy good or what?
He can play FCS, FBS, doesn't matter the level. He's got 3,000 receiving yards in his freshman, sophomore, and now junior season starting off tonight combined, and that is a great throw and catch.
You know, if you would have asked me if we stopped that play in the middle of that arc, if he was going to make that play, I would say absolutely not. Defender had good position, it's well covered. Ball wasn't really put out away from him to throw him open. But man, the concentration that he has to follow that with the defender in his face, fantastic work watching this young man, Jake Winicki, come out and perform every time you watch him. Look at that, that's good coverage. You can't ask much more out of Nico Small than that. He's a little late getting his head and hands back, but you got to give a lot of credit to Jake Winicki right there. He just kept running, showed his hands late, didn't allow the defender to kind of make a play on his hands. I mean, everything about that was beautiful.
And not to mention an on-time, on-target throw into a tight space by Taryn Christian.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it wasn't the perfect pass, but again, you've got a receiver that's going to bail you out 99% of the time when you throw his direction. So just get it around his frame and he'll go make a play.
7 grabs, 144 yards for Jake Winicki. And 2 of those 7 catches have been for touchdowns. 4 seconds left in the third quarter. And South Dakota State is not going quietly into a Tarrant County night. They answered after TCU jumped up by 14 points. They scored to shave the lead at half. They kick off to Deontay Gray, not Kamonte Turpin. And Gray on the final play of the third quarter will drive forward and give TCU the ball to start the fourth quarter at the 25. TCU leads South Dakota State as the fourth quarter is about to start at Amon Carter Stadium in Fort Worth, Texas. Jake Winicki, 7 catches, 144 yards for South Dakota State, a couple of touchdowns. Kenny Hill's first start tonight for the Horned Frogs, 335 yards in the air. He's ran for 2 touchdowns. He's thrown for 1. He's also thrown 2 picks. We have had over 900 yards of offense tonight between these 2 teams. The fourth quarter starts officially in the 26. Hill under pressure and throws it out into no man's land on the right side. Dallas Brown was breathing down his neck.
Oh, he came screaming off the edge. It was like one of those Tecmo Bowl plays where you call the play right and everything just falls apart for the offense. Unblocked, coming off the edge, trying to set up a screen pass, and then Cole Langer lays out Turpin, who's supposed to be the target. Everything fell apart. Nice defensive call right there for Clint Brown in this defense.
Hill on 2nd and 10. Bullet throw and slapped down. Jumping the route, Cy Mosley with a 2-hand back down to force 3rd and 10.
This is a well-coached group. Watch Cy Mosley right here. Look at the break. He breaks in front of him, not behind him. Got 2 hands on the ball. You saw a pass interference earlier on TCU with the defender putting his arm around the receiver. That time, Mosley 2 hands in front. No chance for a pass interference.
TCU is 7 of 9 on 3rd downs, but they face 3rd and 10 here. Hill stepping up, doesn't want to run, going to throw and found a man who ducked in open behind the defense, Taj Williams, but back where the ball was thrown, markers are down. 2 of them are on the turf here at Amon G. Carter Stadium.
And most of the time right there in that location on a scramble, it's a holding call on the offense.
2 fouls on the offense. Holding, number 58. That penalty's declined. Holding, number 64. A penalty is accepted. 10 yards from the previous spot. We play third down.
Going to get right guard Matt Pryor, the junior from Long Beach, California.
They also got Patrick Morris, the other guard, on the same play. Both guards not having a very well executed play right there, but they're going to accept Matt Pryor's holding call to send them back 10 yards.
Well, that was a pretty big stat that the fellows in the truck just showed you. 8 penalties, 80 yards for TCU. 2 penalties, 11 yards for South Dakota State.
Screen pass.
On 3rd and 20. Dropping deep, throwing deep, and incomplete. Kavontae Turpin so close, Benjamin. 4th down and 20, punting time. South Dakota State holds.
The only reason I say screen pass, it's a perfect opportunity. You get a 3-by-1 set. It's 4th and 20. And again, you don't have a lot of 4th and 20 plays that are high percentage completions, but that ball was put where it was supposed to be put. There was a nice little void right there. Turpin found it, just could not come up with it. It was going to be a tough catch, but you got to come up with a play like that on 4th and 20 to extend the drive.
Adam Nunez, a low punt. It's going to bounce. It's going to check up. Oh, Marquise Lewis, that was a little dangerous. He got undercut right after it bounced twice and into his hands. South Dakota State football at their own 39. 61 yards away from tying the 13th ranked team in the nation on the road in the 4th quarter. Let's see what they do after this on Fox College Football. We're 34 seconds deep into the 4th quarter. Wide receiver Jake Winicki and South Dakota State ready to come onto the field. Let's get a report now from Leslie McCaslin. Leslie.
Well, if you talk to these coaches, they'll tell you that Jake Winicki is probably one of the best receivers that they've ever had. And it's not just because of his athletic ability, but Eric Eidson has told us that he has a very calming presence. You're not going to find him over on the sideline doing a lot of yelling, but that is something that you want, especially in a big game like this. And guys, he has shown that out on the field tonight.
And it certainly qualifies as a big game when you've got this kind of opportunity on the road. McFarland a little pressure, but time to throw it way down the field and caught. And Mr. Winicki does it again for South Dakota State. A deep ball down to the TCU 9.
I don't know what else to say. I mean, they have 2 guys on him. He runs a go route, and all you hear the coaches talk about is like, well, he doesn't have great exceptional vertical speed, but he just outruns everybody when he's on the football field.
52 yards will put him at 196 for the game. Brady Mengarelli on 1st and goal has stood up after a run of about 3 yards. Stood up by Montrell Wilson at linebacker for TCU.
You know, I'd be remiss if I don't talk about the throw from Taryn Christian. You know, the thing that really separated him from this competition with Zach Lujan was he didn't turn the ball over in camp in spring or preseason. He's more of a dual threat type of guy, gives you more options, but they didn't really talk about how, you know, he can drop it on a spot like that down the middle, down the right side of the field. That's a low percentage throw, and he was delivered a perfect football to Jake Winicki.
Certainly not a low percentage night throwing it, though. 19 out of 26. 333 yards for Taryn Christian. And we hear whistles and a marker. The play clock may have run out here on 2nd down and goal.
Delay game. Offense. 5-yard penalty. Remains 2nd down.
Bad penalty right there, Ben.
That is a bad penalty. Let's take a look at this route again. A little late getting off the ball with Jeff Gladney as he kind of looked over the sideline. Put him a little bit out of position, but at the same time, if you're a safety and Nick Orr, there's only one threat, and that threat is Jake Winicki. You have to recognize that sooner and get over to help out Gladney. Not very good defense right there, and perfectly executed offensively.
Back to the 12 for 2nd down and goal. Rolling, looking, hits, down. James McFarland is back and wreaking havoc as a pass rusher. A big sack for McFarland.
Well, just as I was critiquing and criticizing the play of the corners and the safeties on that Winicki pass, this is your typical covered sack. Everybody down was covered. You see the coverage right here on Winicki. Nothing there. And you got James McFarland, who you've not talked about very much, comes up with a huge play, and now it's 3rd and 20 for South Dakota State.
McFarland had 7 sacks in 2014. He has his first this year. Back foot throw, looking toward the end zone and out of bounds. Josh Caraway, the defensive end on the other side from McFarland, who had 9 sacks when McFarland missed all of last year, providing the pressure.
And that time they just pinned their ears back. They said they have to throw the football. We're going to key that football and we're going to get off. And that time it was Josh Caraway coming off the offensive left side that kind of provided that pressure and flushed out Taryn Christian to his right.
We know that Uncle Adam Vinatieri has a big leg and the ability to make pressure kicks. How about Chase Vinatieri, the redshirt freshman, with an attempt of 37 yards. And well done by the young man. It is a 4-point game. Just under 12 minutes to play. Fox College football, don't go anywhere. 86 points between TCU and South Dakota State.
I guess that.
We all saw that coming, right?
Yeah, we all saw this coming.
Gary Patterson certainly pointed out that, you know, TCU has had a lot of blowout wins over FCS squads in the past. This is the 8th-ranked team in the nation in FCS. Big run back coming here. Kyle Hicks this time, up near the 30. Marker is down.
There's a flag on the play.
And we mentioned this earlier, the last 8 FCS opponents, TCU is defeated by an average score of 57-11. But everyone within shouting distance that could hear Gary Patterson knew how he felt about this South Dakota State team, ranked 8th in the country again at FCS. One of 4 teams in the Missouri Valley Football Conference ranked in the top 10 in FCS.
Block in the back. Return team number 32. 10-yard penalty. First down.
You know, we talked earlier this week with John Stiglmeyer, and I think the conference they play in is so good, and especially when you think about 5-time champion North Dakota State, the road to the title goes through Fargo, North Dakota.
Correct.
And I think playing competition like that at that level, and not to mention what they did with an FBS win last year against Kansas, it's just got their competitive nerve ready to go for these kind of games. Speaking of South Dakota State.
Yeah, and you know, you look at even the games being played right now. Northern Iowa is winning against Iowa State. You know, so those are all the teams in the same conference at the FCS level, and they're, you know, competing and beating Big 12 football.
There was a point where Hill had made 10 out of 11, completed 10 out of 11, but he's missed his last 3. Tough field position here, and it's 4 straight misses with an incompletion for Des White on a first down play for the 15.
And what a nice job by Micah Slade, number 6, of just kind of dropping. He had no work in the flat, so his responsibility is just to keep sinking and getting back further against that number 1 route that allowed, that had that forced Kenny Hill to put more air on the football and cause that ball to go out of bounds. So nice little zone drop there by Micah Slade.
Slade from Lincoln, Nebraska had an interception in the first half. Hill now throwing back across, and once again looking for Desmond White, and can't connect at the 40.
Well, in that time, that play was set up perfectly. White comes from across the field. Those long developed. He comes back. The ball was delivered exactly where it needed to be. Eyes just got too big right there for Desmond White. Lack of concentration, a big missed opportunity as we face a 3rd and 10 right now, backed up against their own end zone.
Last drive, TCU got the yardage on 3rd and 10, but a penalty wiped it out, and then they couldn't convert 3rd and 20. Hill running on 3rd and 10, ran out of 1 tackle, ran out of a 2nd, and will pick up the first down. His arm's been letting him down here in the last couple of drives, but his feet answer the call.
And South Dakota State dials up exactly what you're supposed to. They dropped Cole Langer, number 54, the nose tackle, to be the spy guy, but he's just not fast enough to catch Kenny Hill, and Kenny Hill breaks the tackle and picks up a first down.
Ran for 13 yards. Oh, big hit. Banasiak, Christian Banasiak wallops Kyle Hicks.
We'll take a look at it. Right, watch the middle of your screen. Langer just drops out. He's the spy. but he just can't get there. You see the missed tackles, the strength by Kenny Hill picks up a much-needed first down.
Got that right. Much-needed first down. TCU clinging to this 4-point lead. A team that's won 23 out of 26 games over the last 2 seasons. Taj Williams catches it. And another missed tackle. And as a result, another first down. And there's some hollering on the TCU sideline.
They wanted a late hit out of bounds.
Yep.
Looks like we got a cramping injury right now on the field. Anytime you see a player pulling that toe back. And here's the late hit that they're wanting to get on the TCU sideline.
Yeah, Benaziac.
You know, had he followed through with that hit on impact, I could understand that. That was kind of more of a, you know, momentum and the speed kind of took you there to that point. Kind of pulled off. You see his hands kind of come up. I think that was a good no call by the officials there as we see Christian Roseboom kind of come off there. Looks like a possible cramping injury as he's walking off with a water bottle, stretching out his right foot.
From Sioux Center, Iowa, redshirt freshman linebacker. First action tonight, and the moment has not looked too big for the redshirt freshman.
Well, you got to keep in mind, too, they're in a northern climate. It hasn't been quite as hot. They don't have to deal with the heat and humidity, although it's a beautiful night of football down here in Texas. But for these guys up in South Dakota, this is a long time to kind of be out in the heat, out here warming up before the game. A little hotter at that point in time, but they've had their pads on now for 4 hours plus.
It was an 87-degree kickoff at 7 o'clock. From the 40, running play, Kyle Hicks. Kyle Hicks spinning, driving. I think he's got the first down.
And we got another flag on the field, kind of in the area again as an offensive line sort of foul. We'll see what it is.
And Hicks is limping. Hicks is limping off the field here.
Holding. Number 69 of the offense. 10-yard penalty. You play first down.
Right tackle Avion Collins.
And here he is right here. This is the guy with the most experience on the whole team at 23 starts. He knows better than this. Just gets his hands latched on the outside. It's that second effort right there. He was fine. But that little pull right there, that shove, that's what got him that holding call. It's an aggressive play. Sometimes you can live with those, but not this point in the ball game.
1st and 20. Hill over the middle. Oh, Slanina got cracked and a flag comes out. Cody Hazelett, is he going to stay in the game?
Yeah, he's running off the field right now. I think he knows that
targeting.
He may get hit for targeting. They did immediate substitution.
Well, there is a discussion amongst the referees, and clearly we know what they're talking about. Just got to wait and see what the ruling is. Hazelett is a senior linebacker from Inner Grove Heights, Minnesota.
You know, I'll have to see this again, but it looked like one of those kind of accidental, inadvertent ball carrier going down to the ground. You're trying to stay low as well. And it's just one of those unfortunate things now that we have with targeting that you got to lay off these guys, but things happen so fast. Guys are, I think, are well coached at this point.
There are fouls by both teams. We have an unnecessary roughness, personal foul, number 69 offense. That'll be a 15-yard penalty from the previous spot. After the play was over, we have an personal foul, defense number 25. That'll be 15 yards, automatic first down.
Wow. Wow. So Collins.
Correction, number 12 on the defense.
So we'll see 16 at the top of the screen. That's the, once again, throwing down the extra shove. Here comes the hit. You know, he leads with the shoulder, and again, I don't think it was like a malicious trying to target and take his head off, but he's clearly down. You got to know how to pull off that. That's a good call. Just kind of an accidental tackle right there.
And it's a dead ball personal foul. It is a 1st and 10 after all of that. The field position goes back for TCU, but more importantly, they get the new set of downs, and they don't have to dig out. Remember, they were in 1st and 20 after a holding a minute ago. Quick pass up to the 36. Fake hand off to Derek Green. Going to throw it to Derek Green, and behind him an incomplete.
The pocket just kind of collapsed on him a little bit too quick. Some longer developing plays. All the receivers were going down. That was supposed to be a deep shot. They had Cole Hunt, the tight end, as an outlet to the right. You get the running back coming out to the left, but just too many tall trees for him to complete that pass.
And just to follow up again, so Hazelett not ejected for targeting. It was a dead ball personal foul, but no targeting. 3rd down and 4. Hill throwing. Pass is caught. Emmanuel Porter.
Well,
I'm sorry, it's John Diarse, by the way, Ben. John Diarse, not Porter.
And Diarse did a great job of holding on to that football because Dallas Brown came in there trying to get the strip. Showed some good strength and awareness to hold on to that football.
Prior to the snap, timeout, South Dakota State. Their first charge timeout of the half.
It's at the 49 of South Dakota State. They're looking to dig in and take a timeout on defense. TCU trying to grind it out. A lot of the drives have been quick drives tonight. This is 8 plays covering 36 yards so far. They just edged into South Dakota State territory. Almost 1,000 yards of offense tonight, 980 yards of offense. TCU up 4, 9.5 minutes to go. Taj Williams catches. Anthony Washington brings him down. Just a short gain of 3.
Again, that defense still swarming to the football. The waning minutes of this game, these guys still have the energy, the conditioning. They need to run the football, especially with these athletes that TCU has.
Hill has had a big scramble on this drive for 13 yards. Now he'll stop and air it out. And it's a deflection. Oh, just like Texas took last year. Off the hands of Des White. It finds the hands of Taj Williams. Oh, what a touchdown.
Remember what I said earlier when that field goal kind of doinked off the upright, and I said sometimes it's going to be lucky than good. It kind of works out again on this passing touchdown.
46 yards off the hands of Des White into the hands of Taj Williams. It is not quite as dramatic as the deflected Aaron Green touchdown reception in Lubbock last year, but it gives TCU a double-digit lead. 11-point advantage after the grab extra point.
This is the hardest coverage as a defensive player, the scramble coverage. The quarterback breaks the pocket. You've got to plaster your guys. Sometimes leave yourself out of position. Nice deflection, the wherewithal. Nice catch there to take this thing in the end zone for Taj Williams.
And with that, 52-41, TCU over South Dakota State. The newbie has announced his presence with authority in terms of joining TCU's program. Junior college transfer Taj Williams. 10 catches, 143 yards. It's the Delta Faucet's touch of the game as he hauls in a 46-yard tip drill touchdown a moment ago.
Well, and they talked about trying to get him involved. I mean, when you are the #1 junior college receiver coming out last year, this guy's turned down offers from Florida State, from Alabama, some top flight programs to come here and hopefully be the new #1 receiver for TCU.
And part of the story to tell in terms of turning down Florida State is he's from Tallahassee, by the way. But let's see, Hill buys him time before making the throw here.
Well, Patrick Morris does a great job as a left guard to buy him some time. The extra block you see kind of floating out to the left. It's a deflection really off of South Dakota State that puts the ball right in the hands. Opportunistic for Taj Williams. He's just kind of going over to see what's going on with the play. The ball's not even intended for him, but sometimes you put yourself in the right spot, good things will happen, and that's what happened for TCU.
Capping a 10-play, 85-yard drive. Desmond White was the receiver, and the defender was Dallas Brown. Look at that, 15 combined plays of 20-plus yards tonight. Down by 11. South Dakota State in trouble, and Christian is sacked. Coverage sack. Aaron Curry finally got there for a big loss.
It's McFarland, it's Curry, and again, you got to give credit to these guys in the back end. They're finally holding up. Receivers for South Dakota State have had their way a little bit with them. They plaster the coverage. And it's the guys up front reacting to the quarterback trying to break out to the outside. As we see right now, Taron Christian still on the ground, took a big wall up, kind of got sandwiched by two big guys from TCU. He's kind of pointing right now, kind of grabbing his right ankle as the trainers are tending to him. Let's keep in mind, there's Zach Lujan. He's the senior from Anchorage, Alaska. He's the quarterback that started last year when they beat KU. They started the first 3 games of the season with him, played outstanding, got hurt in a game against North Dakota State. That's when Taron Christian comes in. He plays well. So you've got 2 very capable quarterbacks. I don't think South Dakota State right now is sweating it too much if Zach Lujan has to come in.
Lujan threw for 1,861 yards in all of the action that he saw last year, 14 touchdowns, and completed over 58% of his passes. And I think you're right. They won't be sweating it if he has to come in. But Lujan does step into a situation that by no means is the game over for South Dakota State. Over 8 minutes to go, down by 11 points, and obviously a chance for a monumental win for this team and this program.
We'll take another look. Check out the right ankle. That seems to be what they're looking at as it kind of gets planted in the ground and twisted with a whole lot of beef on top of you and a lot of momentum. He's kind of walking off. He's a little ginger, but nothing too bad.
480 pounds of man going down on him. Aaron Curry and Denzel Johnson, the 2 who wrapped him up. So it's going to be Lujan, and he'll come right in and throw it and airmail it over Winneke. And now Christian will return to the game, Ben, on 3rd and 21.
How's that for Lujan? He quickly throws about 4 or 5 passes to the sidelines. Like, hey, go pick up a first down on 2nd and 20 and just aired out there to the left side.
Under 8 minutes to go. South Dakota State, 2 timeouts, down 11. And in a world of hurt here, facing 3rd and 21. Isaac Wallace is in the game at running back. Christian is back as the QB. Christian is throwing it. He's looking for Landberg. And a little help over the top, but the pass sailed out of bounds anyway.
They had a nice little text game going on the inside, where the tackle goes outside, the defensive end comes on the inside. A little twist game as we're seeing Taron Christian now really hobbling, trying to get off. Isaac Wallace there to kind of provide some assistance for him to get out
number 13
the field.
is now number 88.
Boy, the way he's hobbling around, it might be tough to come back and play in this football game.
Grady Hale, low line drive punt. Bad bounce from a jackrabbit perspective. TCU excellent field position to keep it a 2-score game. South Dakota State's going to have to get a stop and at worst can concede a field goal.
46. TCU will start off 1st and 10.
Well, Take a look at the bottom of the screen. That's a little stunt game I was talking about. Aaron Curry kind of gets free. He gets the quarterback hit. Doesn't look like anything severe, especially on that right ankle. But I got to imagine for a guy that sprained his ankle before this, the more time as inflammation kind of gets in there, starts to stiffen up, he's going to have to do a good job of keeping that thing warm.
And a little razzle-dazzle, faking the throw, getting it on an end around to Deontay Gray. Down to the 39. This drive starts at the South Dakota State 46. Remember that Deontay Gray missed all of last season after catching 8 touchdown passes in 2014. His first touch was the first touchdown in the remodeled Amon Carter Stadium, a punt return in the first quarter against Grambling back in 2012 when he was a redshirt freshman. Second and short. Hill throwing. Williams, who just had the touchdown catch a moment ago, grabs his 11th reception of the night, and it will move the chains for a first down. Pushed out by Anthony Washington.
You know, I like the deception there from Doug Meacham to get 3 backs in the backfield, just like he's got right now. He's got a tight end. He's got a big running back. He's got Kyle Hicks dotting the pistol look, and then they go with the one-on-one coverage on the outside on the last play.
Derek Green trying to get downhill, and he's wrestled down. We have seen him break tackles tonight, but Christian Benaziac wrapped him up and held on for dear life to take him to the turf.
This is those situations as a defense, you're telling them, hold up the ball carrier. Hold him up, gang tackle, get some arms in there, try to strip out the football. The first guy wraps him up. Second and third guy start ripping at that football.
2nd and 8. Travaris Johnson is in. This is his first touch as a runner tonight.
Well, and just like I was talking, Travaris Johnson, not exactly the guy they have the most faith in when it comes to ball security. And a costly fumble last year against OU. He's had a few fumbles here in preseason camp. And at a time right now where you need to hold on to the football and grind this clock down, interesting move having Travaris Johnson in there in the backfield.
TCU up 11. 5:40 left in the game. Significant moment in the game here on 3rd and 7. And Hill approaching 450 yards passing now as he throws that bullet out to Des White for a first down.
So they've tried to target Des White a bunch of times. He had a big drop on a deep over a couple series ago. But I love the fact that Kenny Hill has settled down the second half and really is throwing some darts right now, making it really hard for this South Dakota State defense to get a beat on what he's doing. And it's really hard to jump routes when those balls are coming that quick.
They needed 7. They pick up 8. Christian Roseboom is down. We've seen him go to the turf a couple of times. Kenny Hill, he's completed 2/3 of his passes tonight. Overall, 438 yards. And the highlights you're seeing here are from the second half.
Well, like I said, he's moved around the pocket, but he's bought some time, used his legs, picked up first downs using his legs. He just seems much more comfortable. And, you know, it's what you'd expect. He didn't play all of last year as he transferred back in here from Texas A&M. You knew there's going to be some rust. The speed of the game he's not used to. First half was a little rough. 2 interceptions, 14 points off those interceptions. But this second half, he's looked awfully good. Timing's been on point. He's been buying some time with his legs. He's really, really settled down and put a lot of those plays behind him. Very headstrong player. I like his maturity right now in the second half.
The 438 passing yards that he has tonight, part of 601 total yards compiled by the TCU offense. From the 12, in the flat, Kyle Hicks.
Pass complete to Kyle Hicks.
Well, I'm sure TCU would prefer Gary Patterson that he didn't go out of bounds.
Stay in bounds, exactly. You're up 11. You're threatening right now. You know you're at least going to get 3 points. Well, hopefully get 3 points and put this more than a 3-possession ball game. You got to do all you can to stay in bounds and keep that clock running.
Just picked up a couple of yards. Now Travaris Johnson. Johnson was hit at the line and pulled down by Austin Smenda from Fleming Island, Florida, redshirt freshman.
Is made by Austin Smenda.
South Dakota State's got to get a stand and a stop right here and hold them to 3. Well, we're going to have hope.
You feel like it's Turpin time? He's down, going to be at the bottom of your screen here as a number 2 receiver. They're going 5 wides. He's their playmaker.
3rd and 6 at the 8-yard line. Hill stepping up. He's going to run. He's got the 5. He's got the goal line. Hill's feet do the job again.
Well, they don't throw him the football, but he's out there with the key block. It looked like it was going to be a quarterback draw from the get-go, just based off of watching Cavante Turpin just kind of lazily come off the line. Wanted to body up the defender in front of him. He felt Kenny Hill kind of break to his side, gets his arms on him. The key block on that touchdown to put this game away.
The 8-yard touchdown run on the 8th play of the drive gives Kenny Hill his 3rd rushing touchdown of the night. He's picked his spots to scramble. He's made the most of it when he has. You said at the outset that he can jump in and to put Javon Boykin kind of expectations. I mean, that's a very, very lofty thing to do, but he's thrown it well and he's scrambled when need be.
Yeah, you know, it's a hard thing to say that you're going to be Javon Boykin 2.0, but he's got a lot of the same skill sets. His body type is very similar to Boykin. He's athletic like him with a strong arm. As you see right there, he can utilize those legs when he needs to. They go 5 wides. He realizes that there's nothing there as far as a pass option, and that's a big body, athletic body. That's a tough person to tackle in space. So he's had one heck of a night tonight. Again, started off a little rough. That's kind of expected. It's been a great second half. He's been a true leader right here on offense. That's something they've been looking for, is to see how he's matured from his issues at Texas A&M. Has he truly matured? He's done a lot of growth in the offseason, but the true test is when you get in a game and you kind of get hit in the mouth a little bit, things don't go your way. It's how you respond, and I think he's responded very well for his first game here at TCU.
He's at 439 passing yards, 45 rushing yards. He's thrown 2 touchdowns. He's ran it in 3 times. He's spread it around, and with the wealth of talent at receiver, that's not hard to do. He's got 9 different receivers who have caught balls tonight. Brady Mingarelli, first he had to catch it and stay in bounds. He did do that, and then his return goes up to the 20-yard line.
Well, now it's going to be interesting. You saw Taryn Christian on that last series kind of hobble off with an ankle injury. We saw Zach Lujan come in for 1 play. And then the last play, he really hobbled off as they're taking a look at that.
Yeah, it looked like they retaped it.
They're going to retape it. Is he going to be the one that comes out, or is it going to be Lujan that comes in?
Christian's coming out. Four minutes to go. There was a time in the 4th quarter that South Dakota State was within 4 points. The game was tied at the half, 24-24. Throwing it deep out on the left side and batted up into the air by Denzel Johnson.
Well, you notice how that ball floated on him a little bit? If you're a quarterback and your back foot, your plant foot is hurting you a little bit, you can't push off with as much force to drive that football down. That's going to be something to watch here on this drive and throughout the rest of this ball game. Can he drive off that back foot with everything he has to deliver the football the way he has been this whole football game?
And he's made some great throws as the night has unfolded, but may not have much gas left in the tank right now. It just flails out of his hands with pressure collapsing on him.
Excuse me, it's that left foot, correct? It's his front foot that he can't plan on.
Intentional grounding. Offense number 3. Ball didn't reach the line of scrimmage. receiver in the area. Lost it down. Spotted the foul. Third down.
Chris Bradley was providing the pressure. And now South Dakota State is backed up to their 9-yard line. What a battle that John Sigelmeyer and South Dakota State provided for TCU in the season opener. But Christian just about worn down to the nub now as we're in the last 4 minutes of the game. He throws on a move, and it's too low for the sliding tight end Dallas Goddard at the 30.
Yeah, I don't think there's any reason right now to even have him out there. He's clearly hobbled up. It is his right foot. Looked like there was a clean spat on the left. Thought it was the left foot. It is the right foot that looks like it's ailing him right now. This game is over. It's out of hand. I can't imagine he comes back out.
Reporting is number 88.
Brady Hale ready to punt. Desmond White will get a chance to return. Waiting on blockers. Well, the marker is going to come down on the return game, and that has been problematic tonight for TCU. Lorenzo Williams made the tackle on special teams for South Dakota State. 18-yard return, but presumably won't stand.
During the return, holding, return team number 18. 10-yard penalty, first down.
You know, I don't think I've ever seen a TCU team under Gary Patterson in recent history have this many penalties. They're a very disciplined football team, very well coached. And all of these penalties, a lot on special teams as well.
It's 12 penalties and 125 yards, and that's why Gary Patterson, his team's up by 18. They're going to win the game, but he is not pleased. And look, if you're in it to win it at the highest level, Ben, that you can't accept. You may win this game, but I think Gary Patterson would be the first to say, if you're going to be in it to win it, again, at a high level, then you can't accept penalties and mistakes and mediocrity in any aspect of the game. And they've got to gear up, of course, for Big 12 play after first they play Arkansas out of the SEC next week. Iowa State for their Big 12 opener in 2 weeks. Cross town to play for the Iron Skillet against SMU. And then Oklahoma, now ranked 3rd. We obviously know that's going to drop after the loss to Houston earlier today, as we see the TCU upcoming schedule presented by Quicken Loans.
Well, they always say the next one's the most important, and the way South Dakota State was able to run the football today on this defense, which was a little bit of an Achilles heel for this defense last year, Arkansas's got some big, beefy guys up front. Their MO is to run the football, so it's going to be a big-time matchup next week. Hey, you can't think about Oklahoma. You can't think about SMU. You got to get through Arkansas first and shore up your run game before you get into the meat of that schedule.
A cutback run here for freshman Darius Anderson, who's into the game. Anderson from Rosenberg with his first carry at TCU. 3rd ranked running back recruit in Texas after running for almost 2,300 yards as a senior at Rosenberg and 30 touchdowns.
Well, kind of like Taj Williams, number 2, the receiver. Darius Anderson, he had some big-time offers. It just goes to show you what Gary Patterson's done to build up this program, to have guys like Darius Anderson turn down Alabama, Texas A&M, to come right here, Fort Worth, to TCU.
And they've got another young running back, Shewo Lalana-Lua, who comes in. And he runs through tackles. This is a guy who averaged 11 yards a carry as a senior in high school at Humble Kingwood. And Lalana-Lua picks up more than 11 racing down the sideline at his first collegiate carry.
You know, I'm curious to see what they do with Lalana-Lua. He is 18 years old. He's 6'3", 225 pounds. He was a #1 ranked athlete in Texas last year. You know,
he played linebacker in high school.
What's he gonna look like here when he gets in a strength and conditioning program, a nutrition program here at the highest level? Is he gonna be 6'3", keep his athleticism, be 240, 245?
We'll see him run again. He carried for 21 yards. He cuts it back and will only pick up 2 or 3 here. You know, you were talking a minute ago as we close out the book on South Dakota State quickly about Taryn Christian and, you know, no need to have him in the game late. Remember that they've got a huge game next week. Now, the opponent is Drake for the Missouri Valley Conference, but what makes it so big is it's the opening of their new stadium, Dana J. Dykehouse Stadium, after Coughlin Alumni Stadium had been their home for well over 50 years. They've had a multi-phase project on the site of the old stadium to build a completely new home that seats almost 20,000. So it's a big moment of the program next week, and obviously they want to be healthy and put their best foot forward in terms of performance to open up the new jewel of a stadium.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they've worked so hard for stuff like that. A big economic boom in and around Sioux Falls. It's kind of trickled all the way up to Brookings. They got that game, and then you think about these road games that South Dakota State has this year. They go to Fargo to play North Dakota State, #1 ranked team in FCS. They also have Illinois State, #8 ranked team in FCS, and they have #5 Northern Iowa as well. So they've got a gauntlet of road teams if they want to be one of the top playoff teams in FCS this year.
Alana Liu, the freshman's run a couple of times. Darius Anderson, another freshman, has run a couple of times here at the end. He stopped at the 7-yard line on what is the final play of the game. South Dakota State came to Fort Worth, and they opened some eyes for those who might have been unaware of what they're all about. But TCU is the 13th ranked team in the nation for a reason. They've won 23 out of their last 26 in 2014 and 2015 for a reason. And when it came down to winning time, they were able to make the plays necessary to scratch out a 59-41 victory at Amon Carter Stadium.
A lot of mistakes, obviously, for TCU, but they have to be happy with the way they finished. And Patterson's going to have a lot to say about this team. Not a lot of things to like defensively in the run game, but you got to be happy with Kenny Hill and the way he responded in the second half.
And speaking of Coach Gary Patterson, he's with Leslie McCaslin on the field right now.
Well, they just mentioned it. You've got to be happy with the way Kenny Hill responded in the second half. How did he and the offense get settled in and find a rhythm?
Well, I mean, you know, it's the way it always works. Everybody asks questions. One's at the side of the ball that asks question marks always seems to rally because people talk bad about them. The ones that just say everybody says supposed to be better didn't play very well. And so for us, you know, somewhere reality, somewhere in between. But I thought Kenny managed the game great. I thought we caught the ball well. We got lucky on one play, but it's, you know, on this day today, the way things went with everybody, it was just good to get a win.
Yeah, I was about to say a lot of upsets this weekend. You were not one of them. What do you hope your team takes from a game like this?
Well, that we got to get a lot better, especially on defense. Too many penalties where we could have hurt ourselves. We got lucky, got out of a hole. But we got to make ourselves be better, and we got a week to do it. We got a good Arkansas team coming to town.
You told us all week this defense is young, that they have a lot of expectation, but you weren't sure what to expect yet. Where do you hope they improve?
The problem was Traven Howard and Denzel Johnson and Ranthor Tyler, they didn't practice about half of 2 days because of injuries, and they didn't play real well tonight. And so we got to get them to play in shape and get them ready to go, and other guys got to be able to step in.
All right, we know they'll do it. Thanks, Coach.
Win number 144 in his 17 seasons in Fort Worth as the head coach, recorded tonight for Gary Patterson. They survived the 12 penalties, and they win it tonight over South Dakota State by a final score of 59-41. Be sure and join us next Saturday. Ohio will travel to Lawrence to take on the Kansas Jayhawks in a game that kicks off here on Fox College Football at 2:30 Eastern Time. For Ben Lieber, Leslie McCaslin, and our great crew in Fort Worth, Texas, I'm Mark Followell. Thanks for joining us tonight for Fox College Football.